Hello, and welcome again to another episode of the Watch That Joint podcast. My name is Mary,
And I'm James.
and today we will be reviewing Leave the World Behind, which is, what is it, a 2023 film on
Yep.
Netflix directed by Sam Esmail, and is actually based on an adaptation of a book of the same name by Rumaan Alam.
Hmm.
Yeah. So,
Actually, I saw that book in Target yesterday. So,
oh, really?
yeah.
How
Yeah,
did the
it's the
cover
most-
look?
The cover would just look like the movie cover. So
Okay,
it's
so like the trees in the background and leave the world behind in red font.
with the movie actors on it.
Yeah.
So right now it's the most popular movie on Netflix as of today. So
Is it really?
number one,
Oh.
I had my coworkers and other people talking about this movie. So I'm excited that we get to review it. And
Yeah.
it's something that's easy to stream, so our listeners can go find it and watch it right before this episode drops or right after. So
Yeah, and it's always better for us every now and again to do a movie that's on streaming services because we can also watch the movie more than once without paying for it and really
Yeah.
give more of a in-depth analysis about the film.
yes, it's an economical decision as well as practical. So
Yeah. So I actually looked up a few interviews with the director and also with the author of the book. So with Sam Esmail and Rumaan Alam. And I'm really glad I did that because I think it provided a lot more clarity, which is ironic to say, but the aim of the movie was a lot more clear to me the second time watching the film after seeing the interviews between them. And Sam he said he kind of describes the movie, the feel he was going for was a dream that slowly turns into a nightmare.
oh wow,
And which is funny, and I'll explain, but well, I think it's spot on. He did a great job because there are quite a few parts of the movie that seems nightmarish, like literally like surreal and like you're in a nightmare. And also he said, his feeling, what he really wants to capture was just a feeling of tension and dread. And tension so much, he said like tension, like how far can I pull a rubber band before it actually breaks? That's
Yeah.
the words he used. And I feel like that describes the movie spot on. Spot on.
yeah. It was a lot of tension, and the movie starts out with Amanda Sanford, which is played by Julia Roberts.
Oh, you found their last name. Let me see.
Yeah.
When I was like looking up the cast, it said they didn't have any last names. I was like, is it just me? Yeah,
I
it just
think
says Amanda.
Yeah, so Amanda and her husband Clay, played by Ethan Hawke, they're start out in their bedroom, and Amanda is basically rummaging around the room, and Clay wakes up and he sees that she's packing, and he's confused, and he's like, "Hey, what's going on?" And she explains that she found this house by the beach, and they need a vacation, and work has been so stressful, and that she booked the house for her family to go to, and she's packing for them. And Clay's like, okay, so, and he's still half asleep.
What's the
He's like-
name of that? It's not Airbnb, but what's the name of that? What's
Verbo?
it? Verbo. Verbo seems like the more expensive version of Airbnb, doesn't it? That house is definitely a Verbo.
No, absolutely, it is. So, yeah, so she's like, I booked it for today, right? And that's funny because that sounds like something that we would do. My mom would do
Our
growing
mom
up.
would do. That's very Libby.
That's Libby. That's Libby
That's
all
very
day.
Libby.
Is
And
that she would?
Sometimes it's fun spontaneity. Other times it's like, Mom, you are so chaotic.
Yeah,
But
like,
as a kid, it was fun.
exactly. I remember one time we got off of school. And she just had covers in the back of the car. And I'm like, Mom, what's going on? She's like, we're going to the beach. And I'm like, okay.
Really, I don't remember that.
Yeah. Yeah, we're like, we're going
I don't
to
put
the
it
beach.
past you. I don't put it past you.
Or there was also one time where we just got in the car and she's like, we're going to Disney World.
Oh my God. Yeah, yeah. Go home, Packer, going to Disney. That was the best
Yeah,
time.
that was like what? So
Yeah. But going back, I'm gonna take it a few steps back. When the movie first opens up, like after, Amanda announces she um that she needs a vacation, that she says that work is stressing her out, stressing her husband out, and she hates people and she wants to get away from people. And then it's the opening credits. And one thing I noticed about this movie is the music selection. And a lot of the music selection the musical choices is by Black artists. And at first I thought it was just like because, the Obamas are the executive producers of this film.
yes, they are.
And I found the link actually between Rumaan Alam's novel, and apparently that was on like Obama's list of like favorite books in 2021.
That makes sense. I was about the favorite songs. You mean? Oh, his books.
Yeah, the book that the movie is based on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay, I know.
I know.
Okay.
I'm making a connection between the song because first I just thought it's Black executive producers, and there are Black executive producers, and that's why there's so much Black music. But yeah. So the book by Rumaan Alam, that was on the list of Obama's, like, how like people put out a list of like their favorite books and everything.
Mm-hmm.
It was on that list, and actually Obama talked to Sam Esmail, and Sam said that in the original drafts of the scripts, I definitely pushed things a lot farther than they were in the film. And President Obama, having the experience he does, was able to ground me a little bit in how things were meant to unfold in reality. So
Okay.
at first I heard this song in the opening
Revenge by
credits.
Joey Badass.
Yes, Misled by Joey Badass. And at first I'm just kind of like, this song doesn't match anything. Like we have these white people and you have like going on their expensive vacation in some expensive part of New York. Why is Joey Badass playing? But then I saw the name of the song is called Misled, and he says misled a few times throughout the song, and I'm like, oh, that literally is the experience that Amanda, Clay, Ruth, and Archie have when approaching the house. They are misled. Everything they thought the vacation would be is not that at all. So I was like, I think that's a really good fit.
Yeah.
And,
actually,
yeah.
yeah, I'm actually happy that you looked into the songs and the authors, because when the song
noticed
first
it.
came on, yeah, I was like, I thought it was a little off-putting too.
Yeah.
I thought the song was a banger. I was like, oh, I never heard this before, so I looked it up. But yeah. So this movie is broken up into parts, right? So I figured we can kind of talk about each part, to kind of organize ourselves, since it's a relatively long film. Like, I think runtime was
It's
a little
like
over 2 hours.
2 hours and like 20 minutes or so.
Yeah. So it's a relatively long film. So part one is the house, right? And this is where they get to the cabin, they get to their Airbnb, and it's absolutely gorgeous. It's a modern style home, 2 floors, this beautiful pool.
Oh no. Sorry to go back. No, the song that plays in the beginning credit is called "The Revenge" by Joey Badass.
Yes,
That's the song.
Revenge,
I still don't understand. When they get to the house, they hear "Misled" by Kool and the Gang.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that makes sense because they're arriving to the house and they're kind of misled about what's really going to happen. So yeah, they get to the house and it is beautiful. It is stately. It is grandiose. It's just giving money. I make lots of money. You could never.
Exactly, right? And the scene that I noticed, I didn't notice it the first time as much as watching it the second time, but Amanda makes a trip to the grocery store, right? After they get settled, and she picks up groceries and she sees a man who's in his pickup truck, and he's putting cases of water and large packages of rice and other non-perishable goods. And she gets a weird feeling and looks away when he sees watching her, right? And I think later on we find out who that character was, but that was basically the first thing that was kind of like just a little weird, just a little off, that you can't really put your hand on it. But basically, like, why is this guy? He was shopping like a storm was coming,
And he looked just like Clay at first. He
I thought
looked
he was
just
Clay,
like her
too.
husband Clay.
Yeah.
And I think it's really foreshadowing kind of Clay's future. Like they don't know it yet, but she's looking into who's Clay's going to be becoming. He's going to become this doomsday prepper, even though it's too late. Just like Danny is. That's the character's name. He is George's neighbor, played by Mahershala Ali. Finest man in the suit. I swear to God, that man can wear a suit. But yeah. But going back to the house, when they first arrived, did you notice they framed it a lot in this movie? But there's this big black and white piece of art hanging on the wall.
I believe you. I didn't pay attention to the art.
They frame it. On the second time, I realized how much they frame it. And the crazy thing about it is that it changes throughout the film.
The art changes.
It looks different. It looks different.
Oh.
I think it stays the same at part 1, and I think around like part 3 it starts to change. So when I originally see the piece of art hanging on the wall, which I assume is, well, yeah, I see this piece of art hanging on the wall, and it looks like a black background with specks of white and these large sort of peak-looking white shapes in the foreground. And it's just like, yeah, they look like large white peaks, and then like in an all-black background, but there's like specks of white too.
I do remember that now. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
To me, it seems like it may represent like I don't know their last name. What did you say the last name was of the White family?
I had it written down as Sanford. I don't know where I got that from, but I wrote down
Yeah,
Sanford.
because when I look on Google, it says that Ruth's last name is Washington, even though George's last name is Scott.
Yeah, they called him the Scots, but I don't know. I didn't catch the last name was Washington.
Listen. But listen, that's what going back to Sam. I'm jumping around all over the place, but Sam said, I love movies. Sam Esmail, the director, he said, I love movies where the end of the film is the beginning of a conversation. And when you answer all of these questions, you close the door on that. So I feel like we're supposed to be confused about what their names are too, like even their last names and everything. But yeah, so I'm gonna call them Amanda and Clay. What the artwork represented to me is kind of like whiteness intruding on a black space.
Oh, it seemed like it didn't belong there.
It's just
like it was clashing.
See if you can look it up real quick. Like it's like these jagged white peaks, and there's 4 peaks representing each of them. Amanda, Clay, Amanda, Clay, Rose, and Archie on a black background. And it just seems like to me that it kind of represents like an intruding onto this black space. And even like there's this one scene. You remember that scene where Amanda is she's walking up the stairs and the camera's like swirling around her, and she goes into the bedroom, and then they play this R&B song, Never Gonna Let You Go by Blackstreet.
Yeah, yep.
That kind of seemed like an intrusion too, because the camera's kind of positioned like we're kind of watching her like a fly on the wall or like a peeping Tom. And then they play this romantic R&B song when she's in the bedroom, when she's in George's and Maya, that's George's wife's bedroom. Yeah, you see, there's 4 peaks, right? Do you see 4 distinct peaks in the? Yeah, it changes. Yep. I swear to God, the picture changes when you watch the movie. I don't think I'm tripping, but yeah. So she climbs up the stairs into George's bedroom. Like I said, the camera's kind of positioned like we're peeking on something, like a private moment. And Never Gonna Let You Go by Blackstreet plays in the background. And she's in their bedroom and she lays out on the bed. And it kind of seems like the camera choice and how that shot is filmed and the romantic music is kind of like Amanda is intruding on this man's bedroom and like a space where he had private romantic moments with his wife. And we know that later on in the film, there's some sort of real romantic tension between them. So I see it as like, kind of like her stepping into Maya's place or something. So. Oh,
so yeah, absolutely. This is
it changes.
The picture changes. Yeah.
Yes, it changes.
It changes from the peaks to, like you said, this crazy like pattern and everything.
Yeah, and then it changes afterwards. One more time, and I'm if we talk about it when we get to it. Well, let's figure it out. Do we want to? How do I say it?
So what we'll do, we'll find the pictures and we'll post them on our Instagram so you guys can see it as we talk. when we
Okay.
post the video. We'll
Okay.
find all 3 paintings and post it.
Yeah. So yeah,
But
like that.
we can move on though. But we can find it.
Okay.
But
So yeah, yeah, like that. Like everything Amanda does when she gets into the house, honestly, seems very intrusive and just like entitled, you know.
she definitely was entitled.
Very entitled. Like
Her
very entitled.
personality was.
Yeah. And what did you I'm going back, but what do you think when she just said she fucking hates people? Because that's a theme in the film. That's like a constant of her just being
Yes.
angry.
The theme in this film that she hates people.
Mm-hmm.
I'll touch back on that later, but I think
Okay.
she is pessimistic,
She is a
you know?
pessimist. Yeah.
and she so I was reading this book called How to Talk to Strangers by Malcolm Gladwell,
Okay.
right? And basically he argues that we as humans are very bad at talking to strangers, and we have a tendency to have, he called it a tendency for truth, to basically a default to truth. That's what he called it. Basically, if someone told you, like when you go to the supermarket,
Okay.
and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, your stuff was $5.50,"
Okay.
you don't go and do the math. You don't go and like add the taxes.
You
and
trust
everything.
them.
You trust that that's $5.50.
Okay.
If someone goes and say, "Hey, you dropped something," you trust them and you'll go pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
So people who have a default to truth, like most people, see the world differently than people who have a default to untruth. Just
To
kind
the
of skeptic.
deviousness.
Yeah, just like
Mischieviousness, I mean.
yeah, like you're skeptical of everything. You don't trust anyone. And I think that's exactly how Amanda was. She didn't trust anyone. She obviously hated people in the outside world. Later on, when the Scotts come to the house in the middle of the night,
If that's
she-
even their real last name, we don't know.
exactly, she immediately mistrusts them.
Yeah. So do you think this is because of her job? Like she hints towards like the end of the film that it's her job and working. So she says she works in advertising. Sorry, my nose is allergies is killing me. But she says she works in advertising on the relationship management side. And she just says she sees like the crazy, terrible things people do to one another, and that makes her hate people. Do you think that's the real reason?
I think that's probably part of the reason,
Okay.
right? I think when you do a job for so long, it definitely alters the way you view the world, right? And she said that she was in relationship management. But I also think that it's her personality to be mistrustful.
What do you think of Clay, her husband,
So Clay, I actually took down notes about
played by
Clay.
Ethan Hawke?
But played by Ethan Hawke. He was the exact opposite, right?
Yeah, he was.
Like I instantly liked him. Basically, he was the default to truth person. He was the person that's like, okay,
An open book. I believe
open
you.
book. I believe you. I'm gonna trust you. I can read. Like people, some people believe they can read people. Like,
He
I
did
can
say that.
read-
Yeah.
I can read people. I can
About
tell.
the
I
quote
can go.
unquote Scots. Yeah.
Exactly. So when the Scots, when GH and Ruth knocked on the door in the middle of the night, right, claiming that was their house, and that they was a blackout and he needed a place to stay, right? Amanda was like, prove it's your house. How do you know it's your house? Where are you coming from? Where's your car? Why is it so late? She was asking logical,
I think very reasonable, logical questions.
reasonable questions.
Yes, of course, there was some implicit biases because they were black,
Yes.
but that was very. I would have been the same way. I don't know who you are.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. But Clay, right? I mean, the moment that I thought was like, oh, I like Clay, right? When I'm getting the characters' names mixed up. When GH was like, hey,
George. I call him George more than GH.
okay, yeah. When George was like, hey, we want to stay the night, and I hope you understand. Clay was like, of course.
Yeah,
his instant
exactly.
respond was understanding. You can stay here, of course. And Amanda was like, WTF? What do you
Yeah.
mean? Our children are asleep upstairs. Like we don't
Yeah.
know who these people are,
Yeah.
right? And like the likelihood that they own this house out in Long Island, this beautiful $1 million house, probably multi-million-dollar house, right? Like the
What's the
likelihood
house?
that they
Is it? I can't remember. The house is in Long Island. I don't remember specifying where the house is. Okay.
yeah, the house is in Long Island.
At first,
New
I
York.
thought the whole thing was taking place in Philly because remember they had the Sixers Cup. in
He
the
had a
opening
Sixers
scene?
Cup. Exactly.
Yeah.
I thought it was in Philly too.
Yeah.
But he got out the city. But
Yeah,
he was
yeah.
a Sixers fan.
But one thing I think about Clay, I remember towards later on in the film, not Maya, Ruth asked him if he ever slept with one of his students. I absolutely believe he did.
Yeah.
Like, he just seems like the kind of guy who is kind of like a fake feminist. And I say this because he wears this T-shirt. I did research on the costumes too because everyone's wearing, like, there's T-shirts that people wear, and I feel like it says a lot about the characters. But he wears this T-shirt that says Bikini Kill, and Bikini Kill is actually this punk rock feminist band. I think in around like the 1960s or so. I think they're UK based, and no, it's an American feminist punk rock band. And I think Clay kind of sees himself as like this feminist, but really I think he's a little bit of a womanizer and an opportunist, and I think he uses his like sort of laid back feminist, everything's cool, bro, demeanor to kind of persuade women to sleep with him, if that makes sense. Like he kind of plays the simp, even though I hate that word, and like to really drop the panties, but that may not be who he really is. But that could be just me. That could be just me. But yeah, if we're sticking to part one of the film, which is called what is it called? The House?
The house. Yep.
What did you think when they went to the beach?
Oh, so they were on the beach and they were just relaxing, and they see this oil tanker, this giant ship, slowly
White Lion.
approaching them, right? The White Lion.
That's the name of the oil tanker.
Oh, that's
the
the
White
name
Lion.
of oil tanker. Yes. So they
The
saw
boat,
it.
the oil tanker.
So they saw it coming towards them, right?
Who saw it first?
The little girl.
Yeah, she noticed everything's first.
Yeah, she did. She noticed it first, and
I
think
feel like
she
she's a
noticed it-
personification of a warning.
Well, we actually skipped over the little girl. Remember, she was fascinated, obsessed
With friends.
with friends.
Yeah.
With friends.
With Rosie.
right?
Okay, I guess let's talk about Rosie a little bit.
Yeah.
What is that about?
Her obsession with friends.
See.
I don't know.
I never watched Friends like
because-
that. And when I watched it in the adult, I didn't think it was that funny.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, like, I think it's a few things, right? Because one, it's showing that basically kids just have obsessions over just streaming, right? All she cared about, more than life or death, was watching Friends, the entire movie. That's all she cared about. She was
show.
frustrated about it.
All 10
It's the show.
seasons.
All 10 seasons, right? She was in this beautiful house with a beautiful pool, on vacation with her family, did not care in the world, but all she cared about was Friends wasn't working. I think that's point one. Part two, I think, and it actually keys into what you said, that she's a warning, is that Friends is not a child show. Friends has very sexual indications and like the
Innuendos.
jokes, innuendos, you know what I mean, and jokes, and just straight up talks about sex.
You
It
don't
is
think it's
not-
still like cut? I mean, yeah, it's I would still consider it kind of like a family show, but
No.
not for the little
No.
kids.
No, it's not. In my opinion, it's not. Basically, now
What about the Fresh Prince? Do you think that's a?
The Fresh Prince is more of a family show.
There's a lot of
Friends.
sexual innuendos. Will Smith is getting laid every 2 minutes.
Yes, but in my opinion, Friends was like the PG version of Sex and the City.
I don't even know. I can't even debate that because, like I said, I didn't watch the show.
So I think that portion of it, because I think even the Ruth, right, when she was like, "You watch Friends," she was, or like,
Yeah. What
Like,
did she
oh.
say? She said, I used to
It's
watch
like-
the show too, but it's nostalgic for a time that never really existed.
yeah, Yeah, so I think that's similar. That shows that her parents were not watching her. That she was not listening, was not really monitoring what she was watching or monitoring what she do. Because if you watch it with her and then you go and there's an episode I remember where one of the characters is like, "Oh, I'm the best," like that was the best I ever had. Just talking, and the guy was jumping up and down dancing because he was the best sexual partner that the ever character ever had, right? And as a 12-year-old, do you really want your 12-year-old watching all that? Do a parent really, if they understand what's really they're watching, will let them binge watch that show? And I would think no. So I think it's obsession.
Remember, she
with,
said that she watched. Oh my goodness! I think she said that she watched Succession.
The Wire. The Wire.
No, not The Wire. Not The Wire. She watched some white show. The Senate something. When she told that story about God and the flood. I think it was.
That wasn't
It's
The
a show
Wire?
like House of Cards.
Yeah,
But it's not
exactly.
House of Cards. Not The Wire. It's too. It was too white to be The Wire. Who cares? But yeah, she was like, "You
Yeah.
watched that show?" Yeah,
Exactly.
but
And
I
think-
actually. What were you saying?
Yeah, and I think that's another theme. Well, kind of a theme. It's like, hey, man, you gotta pay attention to your kids, and when your kids see something and are nervous, or you gotta like be available. Because there was one part too where she was like, "No one listens to me."
No one listens to me. I felt so bad for her. I was like, it's true. And then her asshole brother Archie was like, yeah, you're right. We
Exactly.
fucking hate you pretty much. But
Exactly.
I
But yeah,
actually
so-
did you? She was pressed to see the Friends series finale, and I did some research. So it said that, the series finale first aired on NBC in the U.S. on May 6, 2004, when it was watched by 52.5 million viewers,
Wow.
making it the most watched entertainment telecast in 6 years and the fifth most watched overall television series finale in U.S. history, as well as the most watched episode from any television series throughout the decade of the 2000s on U.S. television.
Wow.
And upon hearing that, I see why she was so pressed to watch
Yeah.
the season finale. But
Yeah.
I think the show. She said it before. I think the show, it's a comfort to her. You know, when you think about sitcoms, when Ruth actually said that it's nostalgic for a time that never happens, I was like, maybe she's talking about like sitcoms in general as well. Like sitcoms, you know, after every 22 and a half minutes, the show wraps up neatly. It's a little predictable. Every problem can be solved within those 22 minutes, and then everything's okay and it works out. And it's like, you know, there might have never been a time like that for Ruth, or maybe she wants that reassurance because now everything is so uncertain. And that's why I think she really wanted to know what happened between Ross and Rachel, and why she wanted to watch the last episode, because it's like, I need some freaking certainty. I don't know what's happening in my real world. Let me watch this comfort show and, you know, get some clarity about something. Like,
Yeah. No, I agree.
yeah,
People
but going
like
back,
it because it is kind of feel good.
yeah,
um,
yeah.
But yeah. So when this ship came up, and
It was crazy.
we were watching it, and I'm like, "Yo, that is dumb close."
It was
Right,
scary.
and
It was how
it's
the way
scary.
every time they cut to the scene, you'll just see Ruth just staring out. No one's else paying attention, but the ship's just inching forward closer, and like yeah. I thought visually it was really unsettling.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and you know,
Absolutely.
movies do that nowadays. Like ever since I've seen like Midsummer, I've seen like an influx of movies where scary stuff happens in the daytime. And like in the sunny bright of day, things can still be disturbing, and I like that.
Yeah, because you don't expect it.
Yeah.
You know, everyone's on guard at night. I think it's just what we've been kind of encoded to do, right? To be on guard all night, because that's where your threat comes from.
Yeah.
But when you're sitting on the beach in broad daylight and you see a boat, I remember Clay, once again, the default, the truth, that boat's going to stop, right? It got to stop. And then they're like,
That's a good yeah, it has to stop. And she's like, no, she's the skeptic. Oh wow. Well,
Amanda's like, no, it's a skeptic. They got up. The funny thing, Eileen mentioned, my wife mentioned that she can't believe they stopped to pack their stuff. Right? Like literally like a, I don't know, what, 30-ton boat is steaming at you, like offshore, and they packed their stuff, and they barely got by. They barely made it.
You know,
they're
I think
running
it's
across.
weird. It's like a weird sort of autopilot sort of thing. Like the fact when they tell you, when you get on a plane and the flight attendants have to tell you, in the instance of an emergency where you have to make an emergency landing and evacuate the plane, do not bring your stuff with you. People are
Yeah.
attached to their things.
They are. You're right.
Like anytime people will like they tell you a trick to not leave your baby in the car is to put your phone in the back seat with the baby because you'll remember to take your phone. It's true.
Wow.
It's
Yeah.
true. So yeah, it was crazy, and I was like, that is actually a terrifying thing. Imagine experiencing that in real life.
No, I would never forget that.
Yeah, yeah.
I would never forget it.
Yeah, and they forgot. The kids seemed to forget about it really quickly when they went back to their home. And they went back to their home, and that's where Rosie first see. Well, that's where Amanda and Clay first see the deer. And Clay says this. Clay says that according to Mesoamerican mythology, that deers are a sign of a good omen.
Yep, I remember that.
I did a little bit of research, and literally there's a whole book that I found with like multiple chapters about what deer symbolizes in the Mayan culture.
Yeah.
Like I said, and I think it's a never callback to just like the uncertainty of things. Because I'm not saying that Clay is wrong, that it's a bad omen. He most definitely probably isn't. But deer in the Mayan culture has so many different meanings. And one of them, I'm going to read this excerpt that I seen from this book called, let me see if I can find it. The Beast Between, Deer in Mayan Art and Culture by Matthew Looper.
Okay.
He writes that, like other Mesoamericans, the Maya generally consider the wilderness and its denizens, including deer, to be associated with chaos, immorality, and disease. The more specific imagining of deer as foe derives directly from the role of this mammal as one of the principal game animals of the Maya. Emerging from this concept are several major aspects of deer symbolisms, as outlined in this book, especially deer in relation to warfare, ball game, and sacrifice. So I'm like, the deer aren't a good thing as far as I see. Like, and there's definitely there's definitely like a lot of talk about warfare and just like human immorality and how they treat each other. Disease, you know, later on, her son gets sick, Archie gets sick, and weird shit starts happening to him. So I'm just like, you could be right, Clay. I believe you're right, but I'm like, there's also a lot about deer that you didn't mention. So it's kind of it's this uncertainty too. Are the deer good or are they bad? Are they good or are they bad? Yeah.
And you know, and the person seeing that, right? So the daughter was freaked out. She was kind of just staring at. She was freaked out, but Clay thought it was positive. Thought it was a good omen. Thought it was a good thing that deer are getting so close to us. Right?
Yeah. And like Sam said, you know, he likes a movie where at the end you have a conversation to try to figure out what it means. So I can't wait to actually watch a review for this movie when this is over with. But
yeah, we are the review.
Yeah.
We are.
Okay, so I guess we should talk about I guess a little bit more about when Clay and Ruth get to the house. Not Clay. When George and Ruth get to the house.
Yeah. So before that, when they get to the house after the beach, right?
Okay, when the white family gets back to the house.
Yes, they notice that the TV and the Wi-Fi is not working.
Yeah.
Right. It's not working, and I forget. Amanda was trying to look at something on her phone, I think, and she couldn't get any service.
Right. Yeah.
Right? And then they were like, "Oh, you can help me with the burgers," and he started cooking. And then later on, after they saw the deer, there's a knock on the door at that night when the children are asleep, right? And they're playing wine. They're playing Jenga and drinking wine. And I saw that, and I paused.
The Jenga.
I'm like, Eileen, we should do that. We should have like adult chilling, playing Jenga, just the two of us drinking wine. So I bought Jenga because of this movie.
Oh, that's cute. That's cool.
I bought Jenga because
I feel like every 2 weeks I'm like, DQ, how come we don't got no board games in the house? Like I want to have a game night with you. Yeah, and then I buy them and I lose it. I bought Taboo. I bought Cards Against Humanity. I don't know where it is.
Yeah, no, we just bought a board game we're gonna play for Christmas. But
What?
Any-
Yay! I'm so excited.
yeah, I'll show you after this.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the
Jenga.
yeah, so they're playing Jenga, and then there was a knock. So they hear a noise outside. Not even a knock on the door. They hear a noise outside, and then she's like, "Clay, did you hear that?" And oh snap! What you said about Clay makes sense because he was talking about how his student,
Yes.
how his student was just got published, and how he felt like
She wanted him to write the foreword to her book.
Yeah.
And what he said. Well, I'm gonna let you finish, and I'm gonna add on to that because we might say the same thing.
If you wrote down what he said, what he said.
So he said, let me see. He said, her second book. He's talking about a student. He said her second book is an exploration of how media serves as both an escape and a reflection. And I feel like that sentence there is Leave the World Behind. Like the movie itself. You know, we normally watch movies to escape, to relax, to wind down. But this movie is also, you know, art imitates life. And this movie is really dealing with, like, there's several instances in this movie where they talk about real life stuff, terrible stuff that has happened. So I was like, that's kind of interesting. And, but like you said, it's like you say what you were going to say about her student.
He was probably smashing.
He's fucking yeah.
He was probably smashing.
And
because
even
to write
in
the foreword on the book, that's a huge honor, you know, because an author, they put so much into a book, so much time, and the foreword is the first thing that the person reads.
What is that, like
and
the summary, the synopsis?
It's like not even a synopsis. It's mostly like it's equivalent to you know how it's equivalent to someone introducing a guest speaker.
Oh.
You know, it's kind of like that.
Okay. I kind of
like introducing the author, you know, like the book.
Okay.
The book you told me to read about Bone Swans, for example.
Such a good book.
That is a book.
Everyone should read Bone Swans by what is it? C.S.E. Cooney? I don't know.
Maybe.
Great book. Everyone should read it.
Great book. So there was a foreword in there, and they talked about how good she was as a student.
I do remember that. Yes.
And basically advocating for the author. And basically introducing the author to a known author, introducing an unknown author to the rest of the stage. You know, so it's a big deal.
Yeah.
And like you said, I think they were smashing because his wife, if you notice, she didn't care at all.
She was like whatever. And even earlier in the film, they get to the house and Amanda gives him a pack of cigarettes, and she's like, I know you sneak some smokes in every now and again. I want you to enjoy yourself. And he's like, oh, he like proposition sex with her, saying, oh, you know how I really enjoy myself? And at first she gives him this disdainful look, like, how dare you? And then she gives in. But I feel like it may have been because he cheated on her and she's probably still mad about it. But that's just my interpretation.
No, actually, that makes sense. I was wondering. She did give him a look. I'm like, why did she play him like that? She played him pretty well. That she was like, you got 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay.
And even when I think about them playing Jenga, I'm like, this is such a symbolic game to play because it's literally such an unstable game to play. And you notice, I forget, at one point, the Jenga tower falls down when they lose communication. And it's just like them playing Jenga. It's like, okay, like the author, Rumen Alam, he says that watching the movie, he said the story kind of feels like it's constantly shifting beneath your feet. And that's kind of the feeling that Jenga has because you're literally moving the foundation to make it as unstable as possible. And it's like that really sums up this movie.
It collapsed on your opponent. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
Is to make it unstable as possible so it can collapse. And that's another theme deep in this movie, the root of the movie. Right? You take away the stability so it can collapse.
Yeah.
So what did you first think when
George and Ruth came?
When George and Ruth knocked on the door.
I thought they're purgers. I thought this is a black purge. Do not let them in. They are lying. Well, the first thing I thought is that George is fine. Him in that suit. I said, baby, you can come whenever you want. I don't care if this is your house. Rob everything in here. It's not my damn house. Come in. He was, that man. That man is something else. But Nah, I'm gonna keep talking about it because how the way they lit my boy's skin, he just looks like he was kissed by moonlight. He was in Moonlight, right?
He was in Moonlight.
I've never seen that movie. But yeah, he's so fine. And then Shorty Ruth, played by Mahala, or is it Mahala? Let me see.
I think it's Mahala.
Mahala. Let me see. If I could find the cast, that'd be great. Mahala. Yeah, Mahala Harold. She was in that movie that I talked about before, Bodies, Bodies, Bodies.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
And yeah, I was like, oh, okay, I know her. And first I thought that was his wife.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. And yeah, I thought George was weird. I thought he was weird, and like we both agreed, I agreed with Amanda with being skeptical and being like, no, because it's like, I don't know. It seemed like it took him forever. I don't know. It was weird. Like, I feel like if I knock on someone's door, the first thing I'm going to do as quickly as possible is tell them the situation at hand. What's happened? He kind of took his time, say, hey, hello, we tried using the back door, then we came to the front. I don't know. He seemed kind of beating around the bush where it's like, you need to get straight to it. Because I feel like even though this is your home, you did agree to let these people live here for this amount of time. So they should be skeptical and taken aback if you come out of nowhere. And like he said, they've never seen each other's face. They only talk through emails. So it's like, I think only in that sense is Amanda justifiable. And Clay was too lackadaisical because it's like, you don't know who these people are at the end of the day. So.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think his mannerisms made him seem like he was trying to be honest. But what he was saying didn't really make sense.
No.
Like when she asked for like, oh, can I see your ID? And he was like, looked around and was like, oh, you won't believe this. I left my wallet at Coat Check.
Yeah, at Coat Check at the
like,
Philharmonic.
And she was like, I thought you turned around before you got to the theater.
Yeah, he said it got so crazy that he forgot to grab his coat from Coat Check. And she was like, but I thought you said the blackout happened on the drive here. And that's when you noticed things were getting crazy.
Exactly.
Is that uncertainty? We never know. And even when he comes into the house and he opens up the wine cabinet,
he struggled.
Is that tension of him struggling with the keys. And you're just kind of like, yo, is he lying? Is he lying? You see the gun when he opens it. Mm-hmm. And why does he have a wad of cash just sitting there?
Yeah.
$1,000 in cash just sitting in the drawer. But I did like Ruth too, because I'm like, Ruth, like I said, it is inconvenient, but I agree with Ruth as well, where it's like, at the end of the day, this is my fucking house. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to sit here and beg you to stay in my home.
Exactly.
Like,
well, it's our house. So.
Yeah. Even when she's, yeah.
And then when George was like, well, I'm not asking you to leave. I'm asking here to stay with you and to stay here with you, and we'll stay downstairs. And Ruth was like, downstairs?
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, downstairs in the suite.
Yeah.
Because he was trying to be accommodating.
Yeah.
And like you said, if he wanted to, he could have easily grabbed that gun and be like, get out my house.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he chose not to. He chose instead to pay them a refund.
Yeah.
That $1,000, which is critical towards the end, if you remember.
Yeah.
He gave him the grand, and yeah, the only reason they decided to let them stay was because when they were talking, the TV came on, and it was like national alert.
Mm-hmm.
The power.
And that's when the Jenga fell. That's when the Jenga house fell.
That's when the Jenga fell.
Yeah.
And that was the end of part 1.
Yeah. It's like yeah, like I feel like for me, if I was George, I would have did the same thing that first night and allowed them to stay in the master bedroom, because it's like, this was an agreement. I agreed to let you have the home and use it freely, even though it is a chaotic time. And I agree with Ruth, like all that shit goes out the window, like it's chaos. But it's like me, you know what I mean? I'm trying to honor our agreement and everything. But remember that second night, she was like, why are we still sleeping in the basement? Mm-hmm. I was like, yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. And even when the next morning, and I think we're in part 2 right now.
Before that, a critical thing.
Okay.
Right. So after the blue screen, right? There was a scene where
you mean the weird like hacker alert, or
no, before that, before the hacker
on the
alert,
TV screen.
On the TV screen, it was a blue
the national
screen
broadcast.
Saying,
okay.
Yes, the national broadcast. They went upstairs and Amanda was like, "I can't believe you let him in a house.
Yeah.
That could be the handyman and she's the housekeeper."
Oh, racist tropes.
Racist.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, what?
Yeah.
He's like, oh, the housekeeper, the handyman always knows where the money's at. The housekeeper always have the keys. And Clay's like, relax.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's okay. I'll talk to him in the morning. I got a good feeling about this.
Like
And
a
then,
black
it
woman
goes-
always being the nanny or the maid or the
Exactly.
mammy. It's a tired racist trope. And I was like, Amanda,
Exactly.
listen, don't start with me, ho.
Yes, exactly.
And
I got-
even
I got-
she said something else the next morning. She was yelling at Clay, and she literally said, because she was mad that Clay was kind of, what she said, unplussed. She said a word I never heard before.
Yeah, no, he did say unplussed. So after the CNN alert, it flashed on the screen only for half a second.
Yeah.
And the light went out. And it was part 2. And part 2 is called The Curve.
The curve. So yeah, there's this one. Amanda says something. She's like,
Well, her bratty daughter wakes her up. Remember, she's like laying
Yeah.
on top of her, waking her up saying the Wi-Fi is out.
yeah, hold. I'm trying to.
And then after that,
She says,
sees-
Amanda says to Clay, she's like, those people are still in our house. Those people are still in our house? How is that your house?
exactly.
The caucasity, the entitlement is at an all-time high.
Absolutely.
But yeah, you know, Rosie, she literally, I laugh, like, she literally, like, is lying on top of her mom saying, Mom, I need to watch Friends. I was like, Mom would have hit me so quickly if I work
Yeah.
for some damn Friends.
Exactly. Because the Wi-Fi is out.
Oh my goodness.
You better have some friends.
Yeah. But you know, it's funny because well, yeah, so that's where she gets the Amanda, she's looking on her phone and on her phone the next morning, and that's when she gets that weird news alert show up on her phone. Do you remember what
Yeah.
it said? Like, or
The
what do you
news
think?
alerts-
Do you think it's just another thing to really, like, another segment to add to the film to keep you confused about what's actually going on?
So there was 4 alerts, and
Okay.
they said the hackers are behind the power outage, and then there was another alert that was just gibberish, you know, like just some numbers and letters.
Yeah.
And then as soon as she, basically, our phone went back to sleep, you know, the alerts disappeared.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
whatever signal was able to push to the TV, pushed to her phone overnight. Whatever CNN news broadcasted.
And you know what's also kind of interesting? The fact that Rosie is wearing a NASA shirt.
I thought that was interesting. NASA and satellites.
Yeah, and the satellites, you know, later on we find out that the satellites literally stopped working. They might have been hacked into. We don't know what really happened. But yeah. This is when I noticed that the art piece looks different in part 2. It looks like the second piece you showed him. But yeah, and I think this is where we kind of see also that I noticed, Archie's wearing an Obey shirt. Do you remember that brand Obey?
He was wearing a Obey shirt. Yeah, I never liked the brand Obey.
So
I thought it was weird to wear that on your shirt. Obey who for what?
it's like okay, so what I found out, Obey, this is what I say from Wikipedia. Obey is a clothing company, and it was created by the street artist named Shepard Fairey as an extension of his work in activism. And so pretty much
It's ironic.
it's ironic. So the you know how, like, the font of how Obey looks, like the big bold lettering of Obey,
Okay.
that style is taken from this 1980 film called They Live. And They Live is this film where pretty much let me see, I have the Wikipedia. Okay, here's a plot based on the Wikipedia. A homeless drifter, well, it says, okay, They Live is a 1988 American science fiction action horror film. When a nameless drifter discovers through special sunglasses that the ruling classes are aliens concealing their appearance and manipulating people to consume, breed, and conform to the status quo via subliminal messages in mass media.
Oh, snizzy snipes.
So you see what I mean? There's like, and the funny thing about this movie too, this movie was also based off a book, They Live. So, and actually in one part of the film, a hacker takes over the television broadcast in the film They Live, claiming that scientists have discovered signals that are enslaving the population and keeping them in a dreamlike state.
Oh, wow.
So it's like, I think the Obey shirt is kind of like a head nod to that movie, and how there's like similar, like Sam or Ruman, the person who wrote the book, Leave the World Behind, might have been influenced by this as well.
That was a deep dive. I appreciate that.
This is what happened when I can stream a movie, guys. I can really sit with it and actively watch the movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cause like I said, like they're wearing such loud shirts. I'm like, it has to mean something. It has to mean something.
Yeah, that makes sense. The costumes always play a pivotal role in movies because it's storytelling.
Yeah.
And when you have a movie such as this that you can do beyond the book, you can show that Easter eggs and the subtleties that only your favorite reviewers on the Watch That Joint podcast.
But you know what's funny? I like how snarky Ruth is. She just be getting on Amanda's nerve.
She does.
Like
she does.
The
next. She came down to get coffee, right?
Yo, and she came at their jobs.
Yes. She was like, "Oh, what do you do?" "Oh, I manage relationships." "Oh, I never would have guessed that."
Yeah.
And your husband? Yeah, he's a professor of media relations. Huh. I got friends who say that, and I never know what they're talking about.
Right. I never know what media studies actually is.
Actually is. Like.
And Amanda's like, "So what do you do?" And she's like, "I'm just looking, not tying myself down to anything, because the last thing I want to do is like tie myself down to a career I hate, and then I'm too old to join the workforce. You know what I mean?"
Exactly. No,
I said this girl is funny.
Yeah,
and even George, he comes back to the house because I think he comes back to the house. I forget what he was doing. I think he might have just woken up. So he comes back to the house, and that is when Amanda starts, giving him the third degree and asking him questions because he still doesn't trust him. And I'm trying to see.
Yeah. So Ruth suggested that hackers attacked the power plants.
Yeah, Ruth was really interested in power plants. She was really interested in power plants.
And she thought the situation was serious, right? So she was trying to convey that, hey man, like I remember when Amanda said, "Hey, don't tell the kids right yet. Just keep it between the adults." And she said, "Well, that's fine, but I disagree with you. I do think this is something. I do think this is like real, And then when Clay came in afterwards, right? She was trying to tell Clay what happened, and then Amanda, she didn't tell him about the hackers, right? So Ruth, had to say, "Hey, tell him about the hackers,"
Yeah.
And then I got a quote here that Ruth was like, "Don't you always say to Clay, to her dad?" Ruth said to her dad, "Don't you? If you're not paranoid by now, it's probably too late."
Yeah. Yeah. Literally.
Right.
And I think Rosie understands that too.
Rosie.
The little girl. The little white girl.
Later on in the movie, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But what I also thought was funny was like I said, Amanda's giving like George the third degree, trying to figure out where he comes from. And Amanda's like, "Oh, we live in this neighborhood." And she says it in a way that she thinks the neighborhood is so nice and everything. And
Exactly.
George is like, "Oh, yeah, I like that neighborhood. It's affordable, too." Yeah.
Exactly.
Ruth was thinking about moving there after, saying that even my daughter, my unemployed student daughter, can afford this neighborhood. And Amanda's face just kind of dropped like, damn, I thought I was flexing.
Exactly. Like, "Oh, yeah, I live in this neighborhood. Where do you live at?" And he told him exactly, like, "Oh, yeah, that's not a good neighborhood. It's affordable." Like,
It's affordable. I was like, you really thought you was putting on. He is not impressed with you. But yeah, about the power plants. She was really interested in the power plants too. And listen, I got something else for you.
Let's go.
It is called, so remember she talked about the 3 Mile Island accident?
Yes, and that was outside of Harrisburg, where I used to
So
live at.
scary, right?
Mm-hmm. It was a nuclear meltdown.
So they said, according to Wikipedia, the 3 Mile Island accident was a partial meltdown of the 3 Mile Island Unit 2 reactor on the Susquehanna River in Pennsylvania near the capital of Harrisburg.
Yep.
It began at 4 a.m. on March 28th, 1979, and released radioactive gases and radioactive iodine into the environment. It is the worst accident in U.S. commercial nuclear power plant history. On the 7-point logarithmic international nuclear event scale. Crazy.
Wow.
Crazy. Scary stuff. I kind of worry about mom and dad. They live near Limerick and near a power plant.
Yeah,
but
power plants are typically safe. They after that meltdown, they're typically safe and they're clean. You know, all they do is produce steam.
yeah.
So
Yeah. But even the Love Bug accident is another thing that the director or Arthur throws into the movie. Remember the Love Bug, which is two
Yes.
kids? And it's just like they keep throwing things at you so you never really know what's happening. And all of it makes sense. So you're like, it could be this, it could be that. And like I said, like the director, well, this movie is not focused on certainty. And when I came to accept that, I was like, oh, okay.
yeah, exactly. And that was the suspense part of it, is that you did not know what was going on.
Yeah,
The
but at
audience
first,
didn't know what was going on.
but
know,
at
you didn't
first
know if
run, you didn't feel dissatisfied by that the first time you seen the movie?
Mm-mm.
Really? Because I was like, I watched a whole bunch of build up for no payoff. That's how I felt. But when I watched the director interview, that's when I learned to appreciate, okay, enjoy the journey, not the destination.
Yeah.
Sort of.
No, I agree. So, George and
We're still in part 2,
Ruth.
right? The
we're
curve.
still in part 2.
What do you
right?
think it means by the curve? What do you think that means?
So he explains it.
The
but
curve?
They do.
Oh,
He
you're right.
explains
Yeah.
the curve.
Okay.
So he is really concerned about his wife
Yeah, Maya
because Maya, his wife,
is an art
is supposed to
dealer.
be flying in art dealer. She's supposed to be flying in from Casablanca.
Casablanca. Okay.
And they haven't heard anything from her. There's even a scene where he shows that he texted her a bunch of times, and she doesn't reply. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and that's another thing about the movie too. I remember Ruth says to George, he's like, what did she say? She said, does it feel like mom is gone?
Yeah.
And he didn't answer it, but I think later on in the movie, he answers it, and he shows that it does feel like she's gone. She's really
Exactly.
gone.
Exactly. So that whole scene, the curve, right? It picked up tremendously. So as soon as the conversation ended, right? Clay decides.
Wait,
he's
are you going to
go-
explain what the curve is?
It's later on. I'm explaining.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So as soon as the conversation happened about the love bug, and they talk about the hack is just a couple of kids, it'll be costly, he said, but he think the hack is harmless. Clay, he goes out and he tries to find a newspaper or a person or something who knows what's going on.
Okay.
Right? So as Clay's driving up, he gets lost and he sees this Spanish woman on the side of the road, and she's panicking.
Yeah,
right?
she's freaking out. That was
She's
really
freaking
scary.
out.
There's something really scary about, I guess, the uncertainty of someone seeming absolutely terrified and frantic, but you have no idea what they're talking about.
So
It's haunting.
I actually live with a Spanish-speaking woman.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I was going to look it up, and I was like, James already asked Eileen. I don't have to look anything up.
Yes.
And I was
So-
trying to get the mood of what she was saying without looking it up, but I
Yes.
want to know what she said.
So she was like, "Thank God I found someone," and she's trying to find her way back home. She got lost for a very long time. She asks to use Clay's phone and says that she just saw a plane that was flying really low and she needs to get out of there. She saw more than 50 deer and begs that he takes her with him. But Clay doesn't understand any of this and leaves her alone in the fields. Right? And
So
this is
exactly what they
another-
see later on.
Yeah, exactly what they see later on. And this is another instance that we suck at talking to strangers, right? And I made reference to that book earlier, but this is, in my opinion, I literally just listened to the audiobook last week. It's our inability to communicate or to understand who someone is without like
Knowing them?
knowing them, you know. And And Clay, right? What do we know about Clay? We already know that he's a default the true type person. We already know that he's charismatic, right? He has a propensity to like women, right? He's charming, right? He's like, for the most part that we know, honest. And this is a woman in need, panicking, and he can't decide from the interaction if to trust her or not, to take her or not. And if my opinion, if Clay doesn't, no one does. If Clay is the best, like, people person in this example of society,
Not more than George. I think George would have taken her.
maybe George, but I think all these people kind of represent different facets of society, right? Each individual character, right? And I think if Clay is the positive, outgoing, sociable, and he's like, you don't speak my language, I don't really understand what you're saying. Like, I got stuff to do. I gotta get away from here. He just knew something was wrong and just pulled off and left her. And ultimately, he knows that he left her to die. He left her to die. Because what else is he going to do? Because he got lost himself. And he got lost, drove around miles and miles and couldn't find anything around there. He knew that she was basically left to die.
So I want to get into that because at that period, there's a lot of different things happening. And I feel like they all mirror each other. Yeah. But I want to ask you personally, would you let Salvadora, that's her name, in the car with you? If Aileen wasn't there, just you.
I probably would, because you know why?
Because she's so scared.
Because she reminds me of like that. Like basically, since marrying my wife, I have a heart
more of an affinity towards Spanish speakers.
Spanish speakers, especially older Spanish women, because of my mother-in-law.
Yeah.
So because of that, I would just think I wouldn't leave Miss Josie out. Like I would want someone to go get her. So I would just go get her, and then we'll figure it out. But also knowing my situation, knowing I have someone who can help translate when I get to the crib, or you know what I mean, will be helpful. But having, I don't know, I would have hoped because I have that affinity.
DQ said absolutely not. DQ said no. DQ said no.
He'll be like, adios.
He didn't even debate it. I asked him. He literally answered me within a nanosecond. Like, no. I was like, I'd like to think that I would, but it's hard to tell. I don't know what's going on. There's too much uncertainty. Even though you look absolutely petrified. Like, it was so sad when like she was running after the car after him, like asking him to stop, and like at one point she looked miserable. She looked so but I was like, girl, I don't know what the hell. I don't know. I would like to think I'll let her in the car, but if I didn't, I get it. Yeah. No, but I agree. You know, there's a lot of things happening. So George, Clay, Rosie, and Archie are all outside of the house kind of exploring.
And they're having their own traumatic arc.
They're having their own traumatic arc trying to figure out what's happening. Mm-hmm. Like, Rosie is like, Archie, these deers are freaking weird. Like, they're standing around here, like, staring at me. So they go into the woods and they find a shed. And Archie decides to be a dick.
Exactly. And tried to scare her and was like, oh, some guy is sleeping here and watching you sleep. Which I did quite kind of question. What was that impression in the shed?
Well, you know what I mean? You never are going to get a straight answer. You're never, it's just kind of like, you know, they're all trying to make sense of their situation, but there's bits and pieces of every situation that make sense. So you never know what the real threat is. Because when he said, a part of me was like, he's just messing with her. Then, like you said, I saw the depression. I was like,
he didn't make that up.
What's going on? But, and then you have George, who goes to his neighbor's house, the Huxleys, and their entire lawn is in a disarray. There's just a whole bunch of debris everywhere.
Looked like a tornado hit it. Looked like a tornado came through.
You know what's so funny? The first time I went to Erie, we passed this trap house, and it looked like that. That house looked crazy. Literally, it looked like the house got exploded from the inside. Like, it imploded from the inside. I was like, Erie, wow. Like, get me out of here. But, Erie, PA. But yeah, so that's what it looks like, and it's just like he goes to the freaking beach and sees a dead pilot who I thought was Pete Davidson, and I don't feel bad about it because that man looks like he's been dead for 6 months. I thought that was him.
That's hilarious.
I thought that was him, and he
I just imagine
you know,
Pete Davidson eating a taco in the sound like Taco Bell
yo,
commercials again.
I actually really like that Taco Bell commercial where he's like doing a news forecast in Taco Bell, and a
Yeah.
customer asks like, "What is this?" And he was like, "I don't know." That commercial gets me each and every time. But yeah, and before he even sees the freaking plane, you know, he tries to find a satellite phone. The satellite phone isn't working. He goes to the beach, and this is a dream like nightmarish tone that I'm getting from this movie. It was terrifying when he saw, just like the boat, when he saw that plane coming.
Plane. Oh my god.
And
That's more terrifying than a boat,
it is.
See-
The plane
see-
was faster.
right? Because think about it, you see a plane wreckage, and you're like, "Oh my god, what happened here? A plane fell out the sky. Your wife is in the sky, and then you just see another plane just turn around, kamikaze-ing you,
Careening
know?
towards you.
just like, and you just sit there like, "Oh crap, I have to run."
There was no
And
way
he
he
barely-
and run on sand. Running on sand is so hard.
Exactly, running
It's
on
so hard.
sand, and
But
then
it
he
even-
barely closed the door behind.
Yeah,
Behind
that
him.
how the way the camera kind of like shot that, didn't it feel like a dream to you? Like the fact like I don't know, the camera kind of shot as if he was chasing the camera, and then you see him open the door, but you don't see the outside facade of the house. You just see him come into the house and close the door behind him, and it kind of felt like a dream to me. It kind of felt like, you know how sometimes in dreams you're changing environments so rapidly in a way that you don't understand.
Your brain can't process it, so it doesn't put all the pieces there. Only
Like-
thing you saw was the door and the windows. You don't recognize that. Oh, there's a whole house.
Yeah.
He's in. No, you're right.
Like when you ever try to explain the dream, it's kind of like, okay, I was at school, but I was also in my car at the same time.
Exactly.
That's
or,
what it
or
seemed
people,
like.
Or people shifting your dream. I was talking to my mom, and then it turned to Granny, then it turned to like my boss. You
Yeah.
know, just like just it's just so fluid and vivid. So I know what you mean.
And one thing, and I'm like, it gives me a dreamlike quality because how is the debris breaking the windows, but it's not breaking down the door?
Exactly, and that's what I thought too
I know.
when they first when he first got to the house. I didn't think any of the debris made sense. Right? Like there was like a branch that was broken that made it seem like the first plane it would have came basically flying inland and crashed on the beach versus
Okay.
flying from the ocean and then landed on the beach, like just the direction it was flying to. And then the door was just unlocked. Why would the door be unlocked?
The
know?
family evacuated. The Huxleys, they evacuated the house, so I don't think they'll be worried about locking the door behind them.
Oh, so you think the first crash happened and they were like, "We out," and then left?
Oh, you think the crash happened when they were inside the house?
I think that no one really lives in that town. I think all those houses are just vacation homes that they rent out. and they
Oh,
just
that
go
is
there
what he
for the
said.
summer.
That is what he said. He said, yeah, they probably won't be there because no one's here during this season because it's the off season. Okay.
Off season.
Oh, so you're saying maybe another family was staying there. I don't know. Maybe
I don't know,
maybe
but-
another family was renting
he-
out the Huxley's home.
Maybe, but he went and he checked out the satellite phones and he realized the satellite phones don't work. And the thing is, so I have a lot of survivalists at my job, and survivalists
Doomsday
101
preppers.
doomsday preppers is to get yourself a sat phone, because as long as you have direct view of the sky, that phone should work, right?
Do you have one?
Powerful than the radio signal. No, I don't.
You should get one.
Um,
I'm gonna
this-
start doomsday
this
prepping.
movie- exactly. This movie made me aware that I am grossly underprepared for anything more than a blackout
Yeah,
for more than an hour. Grossly underprepared.
yeah.
So then,
Time out. Clock in. What were you saying?
so we forgot that Archie got bit in the woods walking back. He got bit by a tick or a leech. right?
Yeah. What's they?
And that was
they
kind of ominous because he didn't feel well almost immediately after that.
Archie cracks me up, yo. He's
Um,
so funny.
You thought he was funny? I thought he was just an a-hole.
He is, but it's funny. Like, when they're still in the shed, which I'm starting to think is Maya's shed, because later on in the film, when Amanda and Ruth are in the film, I see some paint splatter on the wall. So I'm like, maybe this is where Maya went to go do art. You never know. You never know. But Rosie looked out the window to the house. No. Rosie saw another house, the house that she ends up in towards the end of the film. And she's like, we should go there. And Archie's just like, no, fuck no, I'm hungry. Let's go. Like, he's just funny to me. He's just funny to me. Like, every time, he just always shooting her down. Like, Rosie's like, no one cares what I say. And he's like, yeah, no one cares what you say.
Yeah,
but like I said, that's why I feel like, yeah, maybe you're right. I feel like she's a warning. We don't, like, I don't know who said it, but someone said this movie is a warning that if it's anything, you should see this movie as a warning. And I think Rosie is that warning personified, and people don't pay attention to warnings until it's too late. So.
Yeah. So speaking of warnings, this is why this part is called The Curve. Okay.
Oh, we
so
finally,
George,
even though we're in part 3 right now, no.
This is the end of part 2.
Okay.
So George, he says that he knew something was coming for a while before the cyber attack.
Okay.
Right. So George is in the finance industry, right? Most likely he manages mutual funds or some type of private equity funds. But he learned how to read the curve, which means that he used Financial Matrix to read and predict the market and chaos in major events.
I do remember.
So basically, right? And he said that he believes the hackers knocked out the satellites, and that he seeing planes fall off the sky, right? So the curve, going back to that point, in history, right? I remember this movie we watched about the housing crisis, right? The housing bubble that crashed in 2008, right? And this movie was basically, I think it's also on Netflix. I forget what it's called, right? I guess let me find the movie. But basically, let's see, housing
crash of 2008
movie on Netflix. It was called The Big Short, right? So The Big Short is on Netflix right now, right? This guy, he read the curve. He could see that basically banks were giving out loans to very low
income
credit score and low income people. They were giving out like $300,000 loans to people who made like
that sounds like a predatory loan.
Had a credit score of 500, but it wasn't. Anyone just give a loan. The credit card, the banks was like giving loans to everybody, and basically they'll pay it because who doesn't pay their mortgage? And he was able to predict that the housing industry would fail, and that he predicted that the country and our GDP would lose trillions of dollars, and he betted against it ahead of time. And when they actually failed, he was able to read the curve. He made billions of dollars for his companies, and billions of dollars based on people losing their pensions, their livelihood, their houses. So watching market trends is a real thing, right? Because the market trends, like obviously people can go into it too much and lose money, but that's what he said, is that he learned how to read the curve and saw that there was different things trending, that something big was going to happen. He couldn't say what or when, but he wasn't surprised when something big happened.
Yeah.
So some questions I got though, right? This is the morning after a national cyber attack. Why the heck are planes in the sky? Why aren't the planes immediately grounded? That was my question.
You would know better than me.
Right. So basically, like, when 9/11
because James
happened,
works. You works where you work at Air Force?
I work at Air Force Base.
Yeah,
right.
You would know better than me.
So when 9/11
because the only thing I would think about is that there's poor communications between the control towers and the pilots. I'm guessing. I don't know.
Guessing, but basically meaning the crashes would have happened immediately because no air traffic controls to get them down. But no one should be flying 12 hours out there, right? Mm-hmm. And then the last thing that happened in that scene was just that terrible, super high pitched ringing, right?
That brings us
that
into part
basically
3, the noise.
the noise, and it's the thing that finally wakes Amanda up. Amanda still doesn't believe anything bad is happening until that ringing happens.
Yeah.
And then she goes and
I think she
storms out and
believes
tries
it.
to
I
find
don't, I
her
don't think she
kids.
wants to believe something bad is happening.
Because she doesn't want to believe George. Because something bad's happening and George is right.
Because,
And
like
she
you
does
said,
not wanna
she's
believe him.
what's that ever type of person? She's a skeptic.
It's is a default to truth. She's a default to lies.
Default to lies.
She does
Default
she does
to
not
deception.
default to truth.
Okay.
Yes, she does not default to truth.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So the noise comes, which you don't really know what it is. Oh, we forgot. So, and I think, what was it, in part 2, when Clay was driving through the town trying to find a newspaper and he meets
Oh,
that
yeah,
Spanish-speaking
yeah.
woman, all those flyers fall. That would have been so terrifying. I was like, what is that? Not knowing what it is the scariest part about it. It's like, oh, they're just
Yeah, the
flyers, but it's like, I don't know what it is that's falling. Like,
Yeah, the drone was basically dropping tens of thousands of flyers
yeah.
all across the sky, and
And they do
read
that
it,
during
and
wartime.
They do propaganda. They've been
Yeah.
doing it since we had airplanes, since World War One.
Yeah.
We were dropping propaganda down.
I remember
And-
during the Oppenheimer review, I heard one of the justifications for bombing either Hiroshima or Nagasaki was that the U.S. did drop warnings from the sky letting people know something was going to happen, but people argued that the warnings were not clear. And they may,
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but they may not have been in Japanese, but yeah.
Yeah, but basically Archie saw it, and apparently he pays Call of Duty or something,
Yeah.
and saw that it said Arabic or to Deaf for America.
I think he said the symbol, death to America. And it did look like Arabic, but, when we go, we don't really know what's happening. And the noise is the shortest chapter.
It is.
But one thing that, that's the point that really, I feel like it drew people together. Like, I think that's, like you said, when Amanda starts to accept that this is really happening and she starts to accept George. She still hates Ruth, but she's coming around a little bit,
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah. So after in the noise, Archie complains that his head feels weird, and he gets sick. He starts like getting
Yeah.
fevers.
yeah.
And Amanda, she still doesn't believe that George doesn't know what's really behind it, behind everything that's happening.
Well, I think she asks him. Does she say at one point, like, "What's going on? Like, you know something you're not telling me?"
Mm-hmm. Exactly, and that's what he explained to Curve.
Yeah.
Right. And then so they ultimately they get sick of it after the noise happened, and they tried to leave and head to their sisters in New Jersey.
Yeah.
And one key part that I saw was George tried to stop them.
He did. And Ruth said, "Let them go." And I'm like,
Let them go.
I'm with Ruth. Do you think George is getting a little bit too invested in them?
I think it's a few things. One, I think he's a good person. Two, I also think that he believes that their survival is more, that they can help each other out.
So their survival
I-
has a higher probability if they all work together.
Yes, because because think about it, right? If it was just George and Ruth, him and his daughter, right? That just means it's just him, for the most part. He has to figure out what to do. He has to, not that he was avoiding that responsibility, but like having a whole nother couple, a whole nother family there. Just another thing to kind of help you stabilize what's happening or understand what's happening. It probably was a comfort. They're like, oh, I'm just not by myself,
Yeah.
And also George had a feeling that something big was going on. So he didn't want them to leave because he thought they wouldn't make it. He thought they wouldn't come back.
Yeah. So are you
So,
going to buy a Tesla?
I don't know, man. So that was crazy
Yeah.
how they hacked all the Teslas and basically blocked all the roads off. So to stop people from leaving the cities.
So if you guys don't know, Teslas have a self-pilot function where the car can pretty much drive itself like we're in freaking iRobot. And I don't know, hackers or whoever it may be, because I'm like, now I'm confused because after what happened with Archie and him getting bit by that tick, or I don't know, I'm like, is this biological warfare now? Like, what's going on? Is it like, but yeah, so apparently all the Teslas were hacked, and Teslas on different dealerships, probably for miles and miles, were hacked into. So they drove and they literally created this barricade on the freeway of all these backed up Teslas. And Amanda and her family almost got hit by one of them. And I was like, what is going on? This is ridiculous. Like, this is crazy.
That was terrifying. And she had to basically just do Tokyo Drift. And
she had to play some Mario Kart real quick to get out of there.
Yep. And you know what? They went right back to their house.
That was kind of funny too. Just like, yeah, we here again. Hey guys,
yeah, we here again.
You gonna let us in?
Hey guys, you gonna let us in? Right back to the house.
To our house and let us sleep in the master bedroom again, even though we established this is no longer a rental property anymore.
Exactly. Let them go sleep in the master bedroom. And then, so part 4 is the flood.
The flood.
Right.
So, and what do you think about the name The Flood? Immediately.
So, I think the Bible.
The Bible. You think of an apocalyptic flood, especially since, you know, we seen the flamingos in the pool out of nowhere. Yep. I'm thinking Noah's Ark. The deer are acting weird. Like, yeah, I'm thinking about that.
Yeah, about Noah's Ark, the Bible.
But one thing that what were you saying?
No, you can go. You go.
One thing that that DQ pointed out, actually, he said that there's one point in the film where George encourages Amanda to have a drink with him, and Ruth encourages Clay to smoke with her. And he was like, there's something about them trying to get the white people intoxicated. Like, what's that about? And I'm like, that is a constant thing that happens in this movie. Like as soon as George came to the house, he made a drink. In the next morning, when he's talking about the love bug, he's like stirring his coffee. There's this one scene. The scene starts off with Clay waking up Amanda with a glass of water. And I'm just like, I wonder what this emphasis on drinking has to do with the movie. Like, maybe
Probably
it's a sort of calmness and like sedating yourself because you're drinking the Kool-Aid, you know what I mean? Like, you don't want to really come to terms with what's happening. I don't know. That might be a stretch.
Absolutely. Because when Ruth goes and smoke weed with Clay, she finds the weed because she's stressed about her mom.
Poor baby.
Right?
I feel so bad for Ruth.
Yeah, she has no time to even grieve her mom.
No, it's so sad.
Right. So she just goes and she
also sneaks her smokes. You saw where she kept her vape pen. She kept it in that room in a box in a closet. So she smokes in private too.
Exactly. But the thing is, right, she doesn't go smoke weed with a teenager, which is also interesting.
She doesn't go with Archie.
She doesn't go with Archie.
Okay.
She goes and she finds Clay. Okay. Why? Because Archie was creepy. He took pictures and was jerking off to her, and she knew Archie took creepy pictures
of her in her bikini.
Right? Amanda was a spaz.
Yeah.
The little girl, all she cares about is that screen. So only person she could go to was Clay.
Yeah.
Right.
And I guess she knows that he smoked. So, well, I don't know if she know. Maybe she didn't know, but I assumed because she knew that he smoked too. So she's like, let's smoke together.
She could have saw him smoking outside or something.
Yeah, but I guess I never thought about that. It's like, kids love vape pens. Why don't you go with Archie? Well, maybe Clay. Well, no, she did say. I was like, maybe Clay is the only person who didn't freak her out, but she did say to her father later on that Clay absolutely wants to fuck her. And like I said, like that sort of fake feminist, she told her father, Ruth told her father, she was like, he definitely wants to sleep with me. And he looked concerned. And she was like, he's not going to try anything. He's not that guy. But does he want to? Absolutely. And it's just like, he's not going to make the first move. But things come to him easily. Women make the first move because he's like more like passive, I guess. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah. But yeah, that's one. DQ did say that. So yeah, and the thing that I thought was interesting is George's and Amanda's conversation inside.
Yes, exactly. And they're having a drink, and Amanda's like, "Oh, I'm warming up to you. I was so rude to you." You know what I mean? She's basically her way of apologizing for the situation because George has showed a lot of grace of letting him back in the house. And he tells a story of how um, he hangs out with his very rich friend.
His
His
client.
friend's his client, right? His client in the government contracting, right? Basically, the type of work that I do. And he basically said, I wrote it down. Um, he tells a story of how a rich client jokes about the evil cabal that secretly runs the world,
The Illuminati.
right? The Illuminati, right? And he says that it did. So he was joking, and then uh, Amanda got up to get a glass of wine, and he grabs her hand,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that was like the first like, this is serious.
Yeah.
Sit back down.
Yeah.
And he's like, he calls her out the blue yesterday, and asks him to move a crap ton of money around.
His
and say
client
he's
calls
going
George
away.
out of the blue yesterday. Normally have appointments.
Yep,
and he just
normally
calls
has
him.
appointments, and he says, "I need you to move a lot of money around, and to take care of yourself." Right? And he said that he believes that his client got a hint. He got a heads up that something was going down. Get out of Dodge. Right? That whoever saw the curve, something was going down. Get out of Dodge. And that heads up, because of his mannerisms, and he didn't joke when he says, "Oh, you go see the evil cabal," or whatever, and he didn't say anything. He just says, "Take care of yourself."
Yeah, like he
That's
felt
what
sorry for me.
Yes, and that's what alerted George. I have to get out of New York City, and I needed to go to my house out in the woods where no one's at, and that's why he went there that night.
And then she said, she was like, Amanda clarified, she was like, so you think it's this evil society running the world? He was like, no, it's not that simple. We don't, what I think it is that we have no control over anything. The best that we can do is get a heads up.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
you know
and
what I mean?
that is terrifying.
You know, is what
Right.
will happen with global warming. Think about Don't Look Up.
Yeah.
Like, global warming is going to affect the poorest communities first. And the best thing that the rich can do is use their money to go live on Mars or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but it's inevitable. Yeah. Yeah.
So then,
Got it.
what do you think about them going up and dancing to the jazz music and everything, and getting drunk and hugging and everything?
Man, it's like I said, it's like once again, what part is this? Is this still the
This
flood?
is still part 4, the flood. Yes.
Okay, so that I'm gonna jump ahead to come back. In part 5, I noticed that the art piece changes again. The art piece changes again, and now it seems like the white seems to have taken over the black a little more, or it's more white than black. Like the colors look a little more intermingled, but there's more white than black. So what I think this means, like we said, Maya, George's wife, was an art dealer, right? And when Amanda and George were talking, they, he kind of put her in a bad mood. So they went to the library, played Too Close by Next. Like, girl, the way we grindin', I'd be so excited. I don't know the song, and I think that's a perfect song because it literally portrays the barrier coming down between them, and they're becoming closer, physically and mentally closer to one another. And the next morning, I see that the art piece has changed again, and like I said, it looks like there's more white than black. And what I think that means is that Amanda is slowly replacing Maya, because when they were slow dancing to Too Close by Next in the library, and they got too close and they thought they were going to cross the line. George admits that he doesn't think he's ever going to see Maya again.
Yeah.
Like, he thinks she's gone. So I think that was symbolic, showing that they are really connected now. And I think that's why George goes so hard for Archie later on in part 5. But yeah, what did you think about it?
Um. So I thought it was a little awkward. I thought that one.
First one, I thought it was a little awkward too, because I was like I said, I didn't understand the music choices. I was like, this music is so disorienting. Like it's jarring, but
Yeah, like
well, it takes you out of it.
it takes you out. Eileen was like, "This is weird,"
Yeah.
and they're dancing weird, kind of like I don't know. It was
No, she was dancing weird. He was dancing fine.
weird. He was grooving, yeah.
He was
But
grooving.
she was kind of dancing like Wednesday, off of Wednesday.
She wasn't dancing that well. She was dancing like Elaine from Seinfeld.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, just weird and awkward and everything. And I never was a Julia Roberts fan, to be honest with you.
Because she looks like a foot.
She looked like a foot. The Family Guy.
That's what Family Guy
yes.
said. Because she looks like a foot.
Yeah, she looks like a foot. But yeah. So no, I thought it was a little awkward, and I was like, I don't know. Maya was gone, obviously, and I just thought it was unfortunate because obviously.
What if it was Maya sleeping in the shed? Like, no. You never know. You never know with this movie. That's what the impression was. It was Maya, and she's watching from afar, seeing if her husband's going to cheat on her. She tried to catch him. Say no.
Oh, no.
I told you there was paint on the shed walls.
There were paint on the shed walls.
Yeah, but continue.
But yeah, no, I thought it was obvious that he was. This is the first time he kind of let his stress show, because the whole time he was Mr. Calm, cool, and collected.
And sexy.
He knew what to do. You know, like, so when he was sitting there dancing, he just sat down and was like, "You'll see Maya again." He was like, "No, I won't."
Yeah.
Right. And that was just finally his like, ugh. And then the noise happened again.
Yeah. It happened again.
The noise happened again.
Yeah.
So then later on that night, they're in bed. And this is why it's called The Flood. Rosie basically is talking about, I thought it was The Wire, but some show that she'd watched.
No.
And how they were West Wing. It was called West Wing. Not The Wire, it was West Wing.
Oh, speaking of bed, I'm going to go back to this really quickly. West Wing. It was West Wing. Yeah. I told you it was like House of Cards. Like you know, the White House sort of thing. But what was I saying? Remember when like I said, that the second night George and Ruth are still in the basement, and Ruth pretty much says that, she said, "I need you to promise me that when things go wrong, when the doo-doo hits the fan, we have each other's backs. Like we can't trust these white people." Do you agree with her?
Mm-hmm.
I think 100%.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
I do. Right, and I think he didn't agree with her. He agreed that they would be together.
He didn't agree with her.
Agreed. Well, he went and she said, "I'm scared," so he slept with her that night.
Mm-hmm.
But like they
shared the bear with her.
Rather. Yeah, but like I don't know. He was more so pro people.
Yeah, but my thing is, remember what George said? He said, the most frightening person I ever encounter is a person who refuses to learn. And it's like, George, you're kind of like that, because it's like what Danny said later on. His the person played by Kevin Bacon, the doomsday prepper neighbor that we saw at the grocery store that we thought was Clay. He says later on, he's like, listen, what did he say? He says, when the world doesn't make sense, I can still do what's rational, which is to protect my own. And I'm like, George, you failing to adapt to the changing times, and like Danny said, we've all been deserted, and you need to be focused about your people. That's what's going to get you killed.
Yeah.
I know I see the opposite.
Ruth said that.
Yeah, Ruth is exactly. She said that same exact thing, and it's like, yeah, man, because I don't trust these people. I don't trust them. Protect your own. But yeah, you were saying that back to Rosie and her conversation about the West Wing when she was lying in bed.
Yeah, she was basically telling the story about the boat. about how it was this
A
great
flood.
flood.
Yeah.
And basically this it was a news report of a flood, and the guy was like, God loves me, I'm not gonna leave. And then a guy came up on a boat after his house was flooded, tried to rescue him. No, I'm not gonna leave, God's gonna save me. And then a helicopter comes and try to save him, and he says, no, I'm not gonna leave, God's gonna save me. And the guy drowns, and he wakes up to heaven, and he's mad, and he's like,
Why didn't you save me,
I prayed
God?
every day, why didn't you save me? And he was like, I gave you a warning, I send you a boat, I send you a helicopter, what else do you want? Right? And it's actually kind of crazy because like the Bible says warning comes before destruction.
Does it?
Basically,
I didn't know that was
yeah,
biblical. I
mom-
thought that was just I don't know why I can't think of the word for it.
mom says it all the time. Mom says it all the time. Warning comes before destruction. I think it's called warning comes before the fall, right? And Rosie was like, I don't want to wait anymore.
I think I'm done waiting. Yeah.
I think I'm done waiting, because basically you just like and even Amanda said, "What we're just here as sitting ducks, waiting to get shot," right? And he felt their inaction was going to ultimately cause someone to find them or something to happen, and now they have to stand their ground or something. We need to do something, right? But then the night ended, and they showed.
Archie
The
wakes
scene
up.
that confused me. Well, no, the scene before that, the transition. They show a lot of transitions. Sometimes satellites or the plane, but in this particular transition,
It was an eclipse.
It showed. It was the eclipse in the moon. The U.S. flag on the moon.
Oh, they showed the
Right.
moon landing flag, and maybe
Yes,
they
the
mean
moon
maybe
landing
mean it's
flag.
up for America. A
I
new
don't
dawn is
know.
not.
It seemed
A new day is not dawning on America, or the world.
exactly. It seemed like the end of the country, right? Because the flag was iced and frozen over. It wasn't waving. Obviously, there's no air. But it was just like dark and morbid, and just like this is what America used to be. This is where America came from. The greatest, one of the greatest achievement is getting a person on the moon. One of the
you believe
greatest
that.
achievement in American history. Oh my God, man! One of the greatest.
No, I
achievements
believe
in
it. It's
American
just-
history. Is now from that to we're being cyber attacked and hacked.
Yeah.
So the last one, part 5.
So Archie wakes up, and I literally had this nightmare probably like 500 times where my teeth are just falling out.
Exactly, all the time.
I had it so often that I emailed a dream interpreter years ago, and they said that your teeth falling out may be a sign of you not really saying what you want to say. That's how I see it as. And I'm kind of thinking about Archie. I'm like, okay, Archie, he's an asshole, but I wondered if that's just a facade, and he's too much of a toxic male to admit that he's also scared, and to have honest conversations with his little sister and like actually be a good, comfortable little older brother. But that's just me going off the cusp.
Yeah, it was when he first woke up, like your dream theme made sense too. Because when he woke up and started pulling his teeth out, I thought he was asleep. I'm like, is this a dream? Is
Yeah,
this
just
real?
multiple times, his teeth just coming out one by. You had that dream before, haven't
Yeah.
you? Yeah.
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
Right, and then his mom and his dad is screaming like, "What are you doing? Stop!"
Yeah.
He's like, "I don't know what's happened to me."
Yeah.
And he looks so ugly with all his missing teeth.
Yeah, he was a handsome kid, but
And-
now he got like these red splotches on his face. He don't got no teeth. He's all sweaty. I'm like, ill George. Ill George, not his name. Ill
So-
Archie.
So then they go and they panic and they figure out that, hey, we need to go and get some medicine because this kid, he got bit by least today. Maybe
He's
it's Lyme
vomited
disease.
blood.
He's vomiting blood. Something has to give. And they also realize that Rosie is gone. She's
Rosie,
out of
she flew the
pocket.
coop. She said, I'm
She
done
flew the
waiting.
coop.
And y'all didn't listen to her. She said, I think I'm done waiting. That was the warning right there. And next morning, where's
Exactly.
Rosie? She told y'all niggas, I'm out.
She told you, I'm out. I ain't staying here no more. I'm going to Jersey with Auntie. I'm gone. And
I'm
she
going to go
left.
find friends in them. I'm going to go find Rachel and Ross.
Exactly.
Matthew Perry,
I'm
rest in
gonna go
peace.
Ross and Rachel. R.I.P.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So,
yeah, and I felt so yeah, they decided to go get some medicine, and I feel so bad for Ruth once again because she's pleading with her father, please don't leave. And I would feel the same way. I was like, how could you leave me?
Don't go.
How could you leave me for these people who won't reciprocate the kindness and consideration that you're showing them?
So I have my notes here. Why did he leave Ruth? Why not just bring her with him? And then later on, while watching the scene and saw what happened, I came to a realization that maybe if he did bring her, she would have got shot by Danny.
I feel like he brought her because he didn't. He left her home because he didn't want to leave Amanda by herself.
I don't know. I think
Because he said, stay with
I
Amanda
think
and help
that
find
he-
Rose. Like I said, the
So,
painting
I
shows
think
that this white man, this white girl has infiltrated the blackness, this white woman. So I think he putting Amanda above her.
I don't think that. What I think what happened is that, because think about it, right? He grabbed the gun. He went over there with the gun, right? He knows Danny is
Paranoid. I feel like everyone in Oklahoma is
Paranoid.
like that.
Yes, there's a lot of Dannys in Oklahoma.
There's a lot of
Right?
Dannys.
He knows Danny is paranoid.
You befriend Danny right now.
He knows that exactly. He knows he's a Cowboy fan, right? So he knows he has bad morals.
Right. If you're a Cowboys fan, you don't care about nobody but yourself.
You don't care about nobody.
You're not an
But anyway,
upright
right?
citizen.
So he brings the gun. with him, and he wouldn't do that unless he was anticipating some type of confrontation. And him anticipating some type of confrontation, and he knew he had to do that. It's hard to do that with your daughter, who tends to kind of be loud and say whatever she wants with you in that situation.
So you think he was protecting her?
You know, I think he was protecting her, and I think he knew that if anything goes down,
I think he said
or
that. I
even
think
if
it's
he had
not
to
safe.
go-
He did say that. He said it's not safe. Stay here or something like that.
Yes, and if he went and he had to physically take that medicine, because I think he was prepared to. If he had to go and
Which is
physically
crazy.
take it,
Because
he
why
didn't
would
want
you
his-
put yourself in harm's way so you're not there for your daughter, for this boy? He was putting himself in more harm than Clay was at first for Archie.
He did. Something in him changed, right? Where he was like, there's
So
okay.
yeah, part 5,
So,
the last
part
one.
5 jumps in it. Yes, it jumps in and out of different perspectives, right? Which is the interesting way how they kind of conclude the movie. I like how the way they did it, right? So the 3 perspectives is basically, Ruth and Amanda. It's Danny, who's the Cowboys fan, Clay, and George with Archie. And then eventually it's the little girl Rosie by herself, right? And all these different perspectives are happening at the same time, right? So with Danny, so the men's perspective, right? He comes to Danny's house, and he has a house not as nice as what George has, not as modern, but still a nice estate. And he goes and knocks on the door. Danny like basically peeks out, and he's like, "What do you want? I need you to step off my stoop," right? And instantly that raised the flag to
The
George,
tonal shift
because
was crazy.
Apparently they were friends. The shift, and the dude did work on his house. He was his contractor. He was his friend. You know, they at least had some sort of friendliness with him.
Some sort of
And
rapport.
he's like, "Danny, what are you doing? It's me." Yeah, this is me. And then, like you said, that quote earlier is that when crap hits the fan, I gotta protect mine, right? And he was like, "Well, his son is dying. He's 16. He needs medicine. Do you? We know you have some." He was like, "Don't worry about what I got.
Yes, I was going to say that. Don't worry about what he got.
Don't worry about what he got."
Yeah,
right? And
that's
I thought,
my
at first-
medicine.
Exactly.
Y'all
was
thought
like,
I was
"That's good shit."
crazy. Y'all thought I was a tinfoil hat, doomsday maniac running around talking about end the days. Now I got medicine and you don't. And your baby dying. I'm supposed to give my shit up? No.
Exactly. And he, I thought Danny was justified, like you said earlier, right? I thought that he had the right, because if you was in the same situation, right? Someone comes up and asking for your resources, your non-replenishable resources, you wouldn't just give that up.
Not
You
without
wouldn't
a
just be
trade.
like,
Like
oh
you
yeah,
said, we
here
got
you
a
go.
barter system, like they did. Even though they use cash, so it's not really the barter
Yeah.
system, but we got to barter something. I wouldn't tell you to get off my property. Well, I don't know. I don't know what's happening. That's the thing. And if you don't know what's going on, like you said, your neighbor becomes the enemy. When there's no clear enemy, you start to fight each other.
Exactly. And that was their conflict, right? Their conflict was, how do I get this crucial medicine to, and they found out that Archie had radiation poisoning. Because
That's what they
the same
assume
thing
that he
happened in
has.
Cuba. Well, he said, basically, they said he has radiation poisoning because something similar happened.
That's what they assume. Oh, hold on.
Yeah, but that's what he was treated for.
Yeah. I have a little bit of history about that too. You want me to read it?
About Cuba?
Yeah, or do you, I sent this to you accidentally. So yeah, I actually have a little bit of information about the microwave weapons. That's what they call it. So this is an article from The Guardian. It says microwave weapons that could cause Havana syndrome exist. So let's see what Havana syndrome is. If I can find it.
Havana, na. Sahara's in Havana.
Okay, so a senior fellow in biotechnology, biosecurity, and ethics at the U.S. Naval War College was brought in as an advisor by the government in late 2016 after about 2,000 U.S. diplomats began falling sick in Havana. Oh, really? Oh, yeah, I'm not doing that. Okay, yeah. So at least 16 U.S. government employees associated with the U.S. Embassy in Havana have suffered unexplained health problems, including hearing loss, that officials believe could be caused by a covert sonic device.
I think I saw that too, actually. The covert sonic device.
Yeah. I didn't know it was that recent in 2016.
Yeah, I thought it was some type of Cold War type stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was
So it said, it became clear that some of the work that was conducted in the former Soviet Union was taken up again by Russia and its satellite proxies, adding that China had also developed direct energy devices to test the structure of various materials with technology which could be adapted to weapons. Then a second major wave of brain injuries among U.S. diplomats and intelligence officers took place in China in 2018. So, yeah, they reference a lot of weird stuff that happens in real life. So, you never really know what's going on. Anything is plausible.
Anything is plausible, especially nowadays. We don't know what weapons they have out here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't know what weapons we have right now. It's literally these countries' priorities to hide the type of technologies that we have. So I'm not really surprised that we have some sort of weapon that you can actually affect someone without physically touching them. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. So I guess wrapping up.
Well, before, right?
I was just gonna. Just moving along with the plot, not review time.
Okay.
Yet. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, no, you can go. You can go. Continue.
So, when Amanda and Ruth are basically looking for Rosie, and they find a shed, I believe that Amanda shows her true colors when she starts yelling and blaming Ruth for what's happening, right?
You think she blamed Ruth? What did she say?
Well, she was essentially just, I don't have the quote of what she said, but she was yelling at her, and Ruth was like, "Stop yelling at me," right? She would basically
This is happening to all of us, not just you.
This is happening to all of us, not just you. Then she asked her, "Why are you like this? What do you get for being so angry all the time?" Right? And I feel like there's a lot of people I know who I can ask that question.
A lot of
Right?
women who look like her, who look like Amanda.
Yeah, just that, or also people who look like other people, right? Just people just grumpy all the time. And then Amanda goes on to explain that she hates people because she believes that humans, and she didn't say this in like directly, but she believes that humans are inherently selfish and would do whatever they can to other people in the environment to get what they want. She says that people are selfish, and she's also selfish. Um, See, I remember there's one point that she was like, that we basically steal from the environment, but plant some trees and call it all good.
Oh, she was like, we do all the stuff to the environment, but drink from plastic straws and eat free range chicken and lie to ourselves that everything's going to be okay, even though we know better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Ruth actually says that she agrees,
Yeah.
but that it's all we got,
Yeah.
right? And I took that as a deep meaning and one of the main themes of the movie. And I think it's actually a main like tenet of like Obama and how he kind of ran his candidacy, his presidency, is that the nature of people, even if it doesn't change, we need to learn how to depend on each other because we don't have a choice, right? There's basically like we need to start looking after one another because we only got one set of people, you know? And Amanda said that she hates people, but she wished there were more around. And I think that's another thing is like
She
if
said
you
she'll
sit,
give anything to have them back.
anything to
And she
have
says
them
she
back.
doesn't want to be like this. She doesn't want to be like this.
Yeah, and the thing is that you know when people push people away, and like you said, have the negative like view that all people are evil and selfish and hateful and
You
don't
kind of
trust
become one of those
anyone.
people
Exactly, you
because
become
you don't
one of
see
those
them as
people.
deserving. Yeah.
Exactly, as the one of the people you hurt, you don't have that default to truth. You don't trust anybody. You're paranoid. You're unable to be happy because you're worried about other people, or you're worried about people lying or mistreating your alliance. You know what I mean? So it's a miserable way to live, and I feel like Amanda kind of represents that part of that part of us that think like that. You know, and it's probably a large portion of society.
Yeah.
You know,
And I think there was a big shift because she finally let her guard down to Ruth because later on when the deer turned up, when Ruth was alone by the shed, she stopped looking for Rosie to go scream at deer with
yeah,
with Ruth when they
she had to
tried
go.
to turn up on her, the deer.
Exactly, and that's the turning point. I think that's the crux of what the Obamas were getting at, the executive producers, right?
It is called
that
higher ground production. You know, Michelle said when they go low, we go high.
we go
So-
high. Exactly, right? So Ruth had to go, and I thought that she tried to. Ruth had to go and had to like, I guess Amanda had to go save her. You know, she had to go save her, regardless of her differences, regardless of how she see people. She didn't even particularly like Ruth, but like she couldn't let her die, right? Because what else are you gonna do?
Yeah.
You know, like this is all we got. And I think one of the key points is that there's, I keep saying it, being repetitive probably, but like the people that you have, you're not getting more. Like you might get more, but you know what I mean? Like this is all we have. So we have to treat people with respect and kindness while they're here, or eventually they won't be here anymore.
Yeah, she said she hate people. God said, bet you ain't never go see people again. Oh man, that's it. But and speaking of people, in the book actually there are some different families, I believe, and different characters brought into the book. But Sam Esmail, I don't know if I'm saying his name right. It might be Ismail. I think it's Esmail. But he changed it in the movie because he really wanted to zone in on these two families, on these 6 people, because he wanted to build this sort of like claustrophobic feeling, as if you're the only people in the world and there's no one out there that can really help you. It's just y'all. And also, like you said, it makes sense. Harken on the point that we are literally all we have.
Yeah.
Like there's cars out here driving on their own, planes are flying out of the sky, teeth are falling out, and well, besides Danny, I guess Danny is like an outsider, but he didn't branch off to the different characters the way that Alam did in his book. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And then so after the deer, they had to scare the deer away. Even though the deer tried to, I guess they were going to eat him. They were going to stomp him out.
That reminds me of an episode of Parks and Rec when April Ludgate, she's talking to Andy, and Andy's super jealous because he just broke up with Anne, and Anne is going hunting with this new dude she's dating, Mike Brandanowitz, and they're going hunting in the woods, and he's like, man, I'm so jealous. And April's like, maybe a deer will eat him. But
That's
yeah.
funny. So after she scared them off, they find bike tracks, right? And
they did say that Rosie took one of the bikes. No, Rosie took one of the bikes.
Yes. And then in the encounter with Danny mentions that the Thorns may have a doomsday bunker. It might be able to help because they had a bunch of contracts. They had a contract to basically build some secret structure that his friend Contractor, Danny's other contractor friend, wouldn't show him the blueprints for it. So he said that's secret rich people doomsday bunker. So go check it out.
And where are they now?
This is still when they're making a stand with Danny.
I know, but I'm saying, like, the people who build that bunker are trying to be so secretive and not letting people keeping the contract designs to themselves. Where are they now?
Exactly, and that's also kind of a terrifying point, right? Is that like you go and invest all this stuff, and you not home when the road breaks? I would be sick, yo. If I went and invested $1 million to build this bunker, and I'm not home, I'm in Philly, I would be sick.
Yeah.
Sick.
And Philly would be ground zero real quick.
For real, real quick, right? So then, so after the climax, right, where George makes this stand and pulls out his gun, and is the most tense part of the whole movie. Clay jumps in and he makes this plead, that basically like, hey, what are we doing? Calm down, like, put the guns down. And eventually they do, and Danny accepts $1,000. So after they're talking, Danny suggests that maybe a few enemies teamed up, right? Because his friend in San Diego saw pamphlets in Korean or Mandarin, right? Whereas
the pamphlets that we have here that Clay saw looks like it's in Arabic.
It's in Arabic, right? And the guy was like, yo, man, the dude who told me this did like 6 stores in Afghanistan and Iraq. So he would have recognized a Middle Eastern language. You know what I mean?
Like the symbolism of the Deaf America symbolism and everything.
Exactly. Okay. He would, and then I think the whole thing is just misinformation, propaganda. And this is the most chilling part of the whole movie. Is afterwards when George goes in the car and he explains the 3 stages of the most economical way to cause a collapse of a country. So the first stage is isolation. You make the target deaf, dumb, and as paralyzed as possible, right? And that's what they did when they
the noise,
basically that's what they did with the Teslas, not letting people evacuate the city.
Okay,
that's what they did with knocking out the cell service, right? Knocking out the communications. The second stage is synchronized chaos. Terrorize them with covert attack and misinformation, overwhelming their defenses and leave the weapon systems vulnerable to extremists in their own military.
That's Danny.
So without a clear enemy or motive, people will start turning on each other. If done successfully, the third stage will happen on its own. So basically, that was the noise. That was the synchronized attack, right?
Yeah.
And
it's a recipe for civil war.
Yeah, it's a recipe for civil war. And in step 3 is civil war and collapse. And he said, this is considered the most effective way to destabilize a country because if the target nation was dysfunctional enough, it would do the work for you. And I was thinking, what nation, what first class nation is more dysfunctional than the
divided.
United States and divided,
America? Yeah, I don't know.
right? Like it's called the United States of America, but there's nothing united about us right now, right? If you think about the politics difference between where we're at right now, between Oklahoma and Philadelphia, right? Or just how people just think, I don't know. It's like it's a combination of the media,
Like how this place is called a melting pot, but people get mad if you speak anything other than English. Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and it's crazy how polarizing some of these things that we fight for, that some matter a lot, some matter not at all, because I think we don't have an understanding of one another, right? I think most Americans think more like Amanda than they do like George.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
More people are like, I don't understand you. I'm going to keep it in my box. You are inherently bad unless you prove it
Their
otherwise.
thinking is very based on confirmation bias.
Yes,
Like,
exactly.
I believe what I only agree with what I already believe, and I find things to confront my beliefs. And like you said, an inability to learn, which I think George still has a little bit of. I think he's too trusting, but, I am American, so.
Yeah, right. And the thing is that I think the characters in the story all showed a different facet of society, and how these different facets, even though they were in the same house, right? Amanda with, her pessimism and
Archie's a
skepticism.
nihilist.
Yes, right.
Clay's an optimist.
Yep, Clay's an optimist.
And Rosie seems like a surrealist.
Yeah, literally, surrealist. She doesn't live in. She's a space cadet. That's what I call her. You know what I mean? And then Ruth seems more practical, right? And then George, he has a hero syndrome and a kindness syndrome.
Yeah.
And these type of people, they had to figure out how to get along to survive.
That's one social experiment. What if this is all just a big social experiment?
What, this movie?
Yeah. Like, it's all just like, got y'all. We see how y'all going to react. This is just a drill. Get it together, because war is happening in 24 hours.
Exactly.
Don't make the same mistakes.
So after all this is happening, right? I'm still in this part of the movie, the end. So
it's called the last
Rosie,
one.
The last one, yes. So Rosie, she wanders into the Thorns house. They show her sitting up there eating all this junk food, a table full of junk food, and then she hears her mom calling outside. So she gets up to go to her mom, but then she gets intrigued by a door in the hallway. She goes and she finds the Thorns bunker. She goes downstairs, bunker. She is decked out with all this food, all these supplies, and everything. But then she goes and sees the TV and put on Friends, and watches Friends instead of grabbing her parents.
I think she deserves to watch Friends. Y'all niggas wasn't listening to her. Y'all, watch Friends. This is your heart's desire.
This is something you would do. You're Rosie.
Listen,
you would
she
disappear.
Gonna find. I think once the finale is over, she's gonna find them. But I think right here and right now, she been wanting to watch Friends. She needs this. So I didn't get to watch the movie fully again to this part. So if I would have watched it again, I'll probably have a different answer. But from seeing this initial part for the first time, I'm like, okay, girl, this is what you wanted. You finally got it. Go find them afterwards. You deserve it. You deserve it.
No.
Watch your Friends.
No. The world is over.
And my thing is, why would she go back
possible-
out there where it's not safe? She found her bunker. Stay where you at.
So she gonna go in there and die by herself?
No, she got all that. How's she gonna die? She got all that food. It's safe. It's secure. All she gotta do is lock the door. She ain't gonna die. Everybody else gonna die. And she gonna be up there with friends having a good time.
She could go crazy.
She don't. I think she fine. It's like no.
like it just saying like, oh, mom, right? Like.
Well, besides what do you think it symbolizes? Her choosing to ignore her parents and watch Friends.
I think it symbolizes, one, I get the temptation, right? But then again, I don't. If this whole thing happened over 3 weeks and she found the bunker.
Well, you still thinking
she
about it
was-
too logically. You have to understand she has an unnatural attachment to friends, but what's the reason for that? If you understand the reason, you understand the why. But you're looking at it from a person who doesn't understand, who you're looking at as a person who's logical, but her attachment to friends is not logical. She said she cares for the characters. Remember, she said it to Archie. She's like, I care for them. So you got to think more past the logical sense of it.
No, I guess you're right. I guess if she has a compulsion to watch it, and she's been stressing and worried about it and stressed about it, and she finally have opportunity, then yeah, I guess I understand why she would watch it. Right? Normally, I think that's abnormal. I think I would have beat her.
It's very
if I got in the
abnormal.
house, right? But no, I think you're right. To understand who she was as a character, I think it's not super crazy that that she would basically
It makes
forsake
perfect sense to me.
her family to
Yeah.
go watch a show.
She woke her mama up first thing in the morning, told her dad to watch Friends, told her dad to go up on the roof. All she cared about was the deer and Friends.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Dear
it makes
Friends.
perfect sense to me. And I'm glad she got what she wanted.
So then the movie ends there. And I know people are pissed.
I was mad the first time. I was like, what the hell? I was like, that was
Why
a
were
whole lot
you-
of nothing.
Why were you mad?
Because like I said, I was looking for a simple, clean ending. I was looking for everything to be explained. Because when I first heard the Civil War theory that George brought up, I was like, really? I was like, that, of course. Like, I was like, that's so, it was corny to me. It seemed, like the whole movie, it seemed like George was just like spewing platitudes the first run. I'm just like, what you're saying doesn't hold any water. But as I did some research now, I don't feel that way at all. And yeah, like I said, I haven't rewatched it all the way to the ending yet. But yeah, the first run, rewatching how it ended, I was very upset. I was like, what? I was like, what is this? But if I watch it, I get it now, so I feel better about it now. But the first time, yeah, I was very upset.
Yeah, so when it ended, Ali and I was like, what? And it just took me a while to process what I watched.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And what I watched and what I wrote down is a few things. One is that the moral of the story is, if America does not end their division and hatefulness, this will ultimately allow our enemies to destroy us by enabling us to destroy ourselves. People need to fight for one another and be prepared for any challenge. That's the moral of the story that I got, right? And the scary part is that it's true. Like, we are so divided as a country and as a people that, like, on anything, from like anything,
Grits
right?
or salt. I mean, salt or sugar in your grits.
Yeah, from salt and sugar to your grits.
Quickest way to
like,
tear Black Twitter up.
Yeah, and it's scary, to be honest with you, and also that I am, like I said, woefully
Unprepared.
unprepared.
Yeah.
Like I don't even think I got rice in the refrigerator. Like, if something happened, like, you don't keep rice in the refrigerator, but you know what I mean. Like, something happened, what am I do? Like, it just
No generators, no surplus
Yeah.
of water,
exactly.
no canned goods, no
No
flashlights,
weapons. Like, what do you like? you
no
know what I mean?
weapons. Yeah.
Like, nothing, But I liked the movie a lot, and I liked it the first time I saw it. The first time I saw it, if I texted you, I'm like, "Yo, man, we need to review this movie."
Okay.
Because it has such intricacies, and yeah, the plot wasn't he was just guessing what he thought was right. But I felt like, because of the movie, of how it goes, you had to believe him. You had to basically take what they said as the most plausible information.
Because there is no right answer.
There's no right answer. Yeah.
Yeah. Everything
take
is
it.
very ambiguous. That's if you come in there expecting to understand what's happening, you won't. Because and it makes sense, because we're just like the characters. We don't understand. If the characters don't understand what's happening, why should we?
Exactly. And there's not an all-knowing narrator to tell us.
Exactly. Like, I feel like it adds to the immersion. We're just as confused as you are.
Yeah. But also, like, they're gonna find each other, right? Ruth and Amanda are outside the house. The guys are driving back to the house, and then eventually, when they realize they're not in the house, they go to the Thorns, and they go find them, and they're all gonna group there. Or what's gonna happen is that Ruth and Rosie are going to, not Ruth, Amanda, and Rosie are going to basically find each other in the bunker. Then most likely one of them will go back, get the guys, and bring them back to the Thorns, and they can hang out in the bunker. The only questions that I have is the Thorns are going to come back.
The Thorns are dead, James.
Well, if they're not dead, they might come back.
Wow.
Or maybe the contractor who built it might come back. Or maybe eventually if Danny runs out of supplies, he's could come back. Like,
But how are they going to get there? Out. If everyone, let's say everyone in that area is gone during, I don't know, the season, because I don't know, maybe they're renting it out. They may be so far away that they can't get back there.
Yeah.
You saw the roads.
Yeah. I mean, if they're in town, people in town might come over.
Okay.
Because if basically if George can drive from his house to Danny's house to the Thorns' house, then Danny can also drive to the Thorns' house.
Well, Danny can, yeah, but Danny doesn't want to congregate with y'all. Danny gonna say where he at.
I mean, if Danny eventually is like, I need some stuff, and I know who might have some stuff, he might go over there. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm saying basically, I'm saying that bunker, they need to be able to defend it. That's all I'm trying to get at.
All right. I get you.
Be able to defend it.
So what would you rate Leave the World Behind?
So I would give it a large bag of popcorn. Okay. I enjoyed it a lot. I thought that the themes were impactful. I could see, especially Barack, I can see his impact in the movie and why he appreciated the book, because he is an optimist. He does believe the best in people. And I think that he knows that people suck sometimes. But this kind of shows like, yo, man, like even in a tragedy, you need to figure out how to come together. But also, I think the movie serves as a warning.
It definitely.
I think it serves as a warning for us as individuals to be prepared for anything to happen, but also serves as a warning for the country to basically get your act together, because the more uncommon ground we have, the more uncommon ground that we have, the more vulnerability we have towards our enemies.
Our division is a weak spot.
A division is a weakness, just like the Jenga spot, right?
Yeah.
When you go and separate Jenga, right, the weakest area, the most unstable area, when you move those, when you single out a particular piece, right? You single out those pieces, and that's the most areas. That's the highest area of instability, right? And that's what basically America is a giant Jenga right now. That if you go and you pull up, do those 3 stages. Put off 3 key points or whatever, it's a wrap. I don't know how successful a country will be able to do that in that magnitude, but in all seriousness, like when they went in the bunker, it was like they just did it in key population points. They didn't have to do it the whole country. They did it in New York, LA, you know what I mean? Like probably Houston, just population centers. And then from there, the rest does it for you. Like if Dallas breaks, Oklahoma got a trip. You know, like it doesn't even have to impact the whole country.
Yeah.
And one other point I have is this same sort of methodology is, so in World War II, another book I'm reading called The Bomber Mafia, I'm a big Malcolm Gladwell type person, but they talked about how in World War II there was a 2 different strategies, right? It was for bombers. Traditionally, it was, you bomb as much as you can as possible, right? You basically scorch earth bombing. That's what they called it.
That is apocalyptic.
Yeah, and that's what they did. So there was one night, for a year straight,
wow.
Germany bombed England, bombed London every night. Every night they dropped 100.
Aren't they called airstrikes?
Yeah, just air raids.
Oh wow.
Right, those air raids were just crazy, and they killed 43,000 people and dropped millions of tons of bombs and ammunition on London, over a year and a half span or whatever, right? But London survived. They said that they interviewed Londoners, and it was we would still go to clubs, we would still go out, and when there was an air raid, we kind of just got in a shelter.
Crazy what you can adapt to.
It's crazy, right? But what we realized towards the end of World War II is that sometimes you don't have to burn everything. You just need to hit the strategic areas, right? You need to hit where the communication comes from. You need to hit where the main weapon systems are. You need to hit their food source, and eventually you can cripple the country. And this is what type of attack that was, right? It was a type of attack that was like strategic and not just, oh, we could drop a nuke, right? That's what we think.
And like
Someone
you said,
just
it
got to
saves a
drop
lot
a
of money.
nuke. It saves a lot of money. It saves a lot of, like, to be honest with you, it saves a lot of lives, but it cripples the country so much faster. So much.
Which I think probably doesn't save a lot of lives. If you're messing with the food, there's probably a lot of people who starve.
Yeah, like short term, direct correlation lives.
Okay.
But so what do you think about the movie?
I will give this movie a medium bag of popcorn, but like a bigger medium bag of popcorn, only because I can't.
What?
Like
That
a
make any
medium bag
sense.
of popcorn that's a little bigger. Like, you know,
Don't make any sense.
they put a little extra popcorn in there.
That makes no sense. You just making up stuff.
No, is it, you know how
Is it
like
a medium or is it large?
like you know how like you get a medium fry, but there's a little bit of fries in the bag, but it's still considered a medium fry. Yeah,
I'm gonna let you live.
All right, I'm gonna say a medium.
Okay.
But ignore the cue.
What?
But I'm gonna say a medium because it's just, you know, the first run of the movie. Like I said, I was kind of like, oh, this is dragging on. They're talking so much, and there are a few points where, you know, I was engaged, but I think it was just too much of a buildup. And because of what I was expecting, yes, I went in there expecting a certain type of movie, and I didn't get that. And I had to really learn how to watch the movie in a way. So, and I'm just going to be honest, like I'm just not, call me unsophisticated or whatever, but that's how I felt. You know, maybe I do like sitcom ass movies where things wrap up and things are explained. But, you know, the second watch was a lot more enjoyable. I did thoroughly enjoy it upon the second watch, but I think the first watch does still hinder my rating a little bit. So I'll give it a medium bag of popcorn. But if someone said they'll give it a large, I understand, because the movie, the cinematography was beautiful. Like, there was this one point in the movie where Mahershala says, he said something like, I don't think things are ever going to go back. And how the way they shot that film, it was such like, just like a, there it is type of moment. And then right afterwards, you hear the noise for the first time. And like, it was just like a, there it is. And like how his face looked and the lighting and the framing, it's a beautiful looking movie. So that's my, that's our review, guys. I hope you like it. This is our longest review ever. This is quite a big movie to unpack. So
Yeah, it is.
if you stick around to the end, kudos to you, and thank you so much for listening.
Yeah, thank you for another episode listen to the Watch That John podcast. You can watch Leave the Road Behind on Netflix.
Yes.
And you can listen to this podcast and more episodes on Spotify, Apple Music, and wherever else you find your podcasts. So please like us on Instagram at Watch That John and follow our page for more episodes and content.
All right. Bye, guys. Oh, Merry Christmas, by the way. I don't know.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, I don't know if another episode will drop before Christmas, but just in case, Merry Christmas, guys. Happy New Year, happy holidays. If you don't celebrate or not, just have a good time. All right?
Good time, yes. More episodes are soon to come.
Bye.